Are live, hopefully. So, yeah, everybody, let us know throughout this if you can or can't hear us here at the beginning. And so, I wanted to introduce a guest. You might have seen me if you follow my channel. You might have seen me with him before. I went on his show that he co-hosts, and so this is Brett Dasovic. Hey, Brett.
Well, hello.
And everybody, if there are any sound issues, let us know. Or if
Yes,
one of us is a lot louder than the other, you
mine.
might
Yeah,
turn
mine
yours
might
up a
be.
little more.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. We good there? Good. 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 Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I think that's
Okay.
better. You
All right.
can People can let us know. I'll
Yeah.
try to look at the chat
Yeah.
occasionally. Mods, if there's anything that comes up that I need to see, then make sure that if I miss it, call my attention to it. Okay, everybody. So Brett, your show is Pop Culture Crisis, and you co-host it with Mary Morgan. And I visited you. What was it? 2 months ago?
Was it art? Has it already been 2 months? This summer went by insanely fast. Holy crap.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did. Okay, it was July. It was around July 4th period. So it was somewhere in those first 2 weeks of July.
So
And
okay. Well, yeah. Would it have to been after the fourth? Because we had the 400th episode on like right when we got back from the 4th of July weekend. So it was probably the week after that.
400. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but 400 episodes.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So you've been around what, about a year and a half? Is that right?
Yeah, well, literally 2 years at the start of next year. Yeah, so a little bit over that. We started off audio only and just did segments on YouTube, and then went live in like May of last year or April of last year.
Okay, so
Yeah,
really, yeah, like a year and a half, not too long.
yeah,
So you've built up an impressive following for the amount of time that you've been around, for sure. Okay, so Pop Culture Crisis is the name of the channel. I forgot to put a link in the description, but I'll do it in the comments when we
yeah.
post this. But I have great mods like Vanessa and Laura B and Rebel Bird, and I think AJ might be coming tonight too. But anyway, they will be throughout the night. They'll be posting your Twitter and your YouTube channel, Pop Culture Crisis, and I'll make sure that everybody sees it as we go along. So when I went to see you and Mary, I was so excited to. Well, I have to tell you, first of all, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and I'm not sure if I should let you in on this, but it is not normal for YouTube channels to fly other YouTubers over to see them. And I was like, whoa, like they're
Yeah,
actually they're
yeah,
actually
yeah,
bringing me out here.
yeah.
I was like, oh, this is awesome. These people are cool. And so anyway, but I was so excited to go out there. Um and so here's the thing though. You and Mary had told me that we were going to be talking about Barbie because Barbie was just coming out that weekend. And she had asked me if I wanted to go, if I got in time, if I wanted to go to the movies with you all and see it, so that I would have something to say the next day. And I was like, yeah, yeah. Well, when I finally got in, it was like, or it was obvious I wasn't going to make it. So I said, well, that's fine. I've got a link online. I've got, one of those unofficial,
Yes,
free
unofficial.
links.
That's what it is. It's unofficial.
And so anyway, so that's what I told you and Mary. And I said, but don't worry, because you specifically asked. You said, is it okay? Are you sure it's okay that we
Yeah.
talk about Barbie? Because we're going to talk about it a lot tomorrow. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's okay. Well, I couldn't find a link because it was out. It would just come out. And so I actually couldn't find a way to watch it. And so I was like, okay, either I have to level with them and tell them I haven't seen it, or I'm going to act like I'm in college and trying to get by.
Okay, so you faked it.
Yeah.
Ah, that's amazing.
But it wasn't obvious. I was worried I
No,
looked stupid, like I didn't have anything to say.
no. That's I love that. It's what it is. That's the Wikipedia entry you do. It's like where you just you skim bullet points and then you let them finish the sentences. That's what you do.
Well, and so
Yeah.
I basically, and so I would interject like a comment every now and then. But I did try to study a little. So what I did was I found some interviews with Greta Gerwig and with Margot
Mhm.
Robbie, and I read, and I did watch a couple of reviews, and so I felt like I at least had some talking points. But if you'll remember when you brought it up, when you started talking about it, I said, oh wait, I've got to get my notes.
Well, that segment ended up running like 30 minutes or something that day. I think we talked about it for 30 minutes.
You had a lot to say. You had a lot to say. Well, and because it was a huge cultural phenomenon, so I just have to be honest, I still haven't seen it. I should have. It just didn't happen for me this time. So I'll have to catch it when it's finally streaming. But I guess I want to ask, are you surprised at how much of a cultural phenomenon it did turn out to be?
Originally, I was, but over a period of time, what's funny about it is I came to realize that, like, look, everyone assumed that it was going to drop off a cliff the next week, that it wasn't going to make any, once people saw the messaging in the movie, that it wasn't going to ring true with everyone and they'd end up dropping out of it. But what ended up happening is, like, look, everybody has to kind of touch grass once in a while and realize that just because you're in the culture war does not mean that everybody else is in the culture war. And as much as I didn't like some of the messaging in that movie, most of that boiled down to, like, the last hour of the film when America Ferrera's character goes off on this diatribe. But all the stuff before that, everything with Ken, I was like, look, it's stupid, but it's kind of funny. And the thing is the people who aren't stuck with the baggage that we have being involved in the culture war, everything that's going on right now, whether you're talking about the relationship between men and women online, which is a big discussion that a lot of people have. We had two ladies from a podcast called Mostly Peaceful Latinas recently, and they have criticisms of the red pill movement and all of that. You have people in that space, they're all going back and forth. Not everybody is into the culture war. So as silly as some of that stuff was, and as much as I didn't like some of the feminist messaging, the people without that baggage were able to go into this movie, and women finally had a movie that was for them. It's fun. It's pink. It's got cute clothes that they want to wear. They didn't have to sit through another shitty Marvel movie that throws feminist female characters in there and says, here, we're going to repackage this stuff that was for boys 20 years ago. Here's some leftovers. Here you go. Right? So this movie, which is finally a movie made for women in a time period where, look, you're not getting good romantic comedies. You're not getting good movies that are actually made for women to watch. They took to this movie really, really well. It had the bonus of being cross-marketed with Oppenheimer, which came out at the same time.
What a weird cross-marketing too. Like, I would have never predicted it, but it was.
There was people at the theater selling Barbenheimer merchandise, which was very clearly not legal because they're not from the same studio. So it's not legal. There was a swap meet. There was like a swap meet bazaar like going on at the theater where people were selling like Barbie merch that was very clearly not Mattel
authorized.
Right? Women finally had something for them. And even though I didn't like the movie, the problem is that they're not learning the right lessons. What Mattel took from this is like, we're going to make a Hot Wheels movie. We're going to make a Polly Pocket movie. I was like, that's not why this worked. This worked because you made a movie by a feminist female for women in the space where they can actually enjoy it. And they're not going to learn anything from it.
Yeah, I don't think so. And, and it was also from what I hear, and I haven't seen it, but I've heard that it did try to be, even with some of the political messaging that we don't love, it did try to be a fun movie.
Look, everything with Ken in the movie, and I really do believe like they felt like they had more fun writing for Ryan Gosling's character than they did for Barbie. Like I think that they enjoyed writing for him more as this kind of ludicrously kind of buffoonish dude. And it works, right? It works really, really well. So the more I read some of the reviews that came out, because there was plenty of people that liked it, right? I saw plenty of people that enjoyed it, that were able to articulate reasons as to why they liked it. And the problem I had with it was they're giving like this big brain detailed like ideas like about the genius behind this movie. And I'd have to point them to the interviews like where they talked to Greta Gerwig and they're like, what's so great about the feminist messaging in this movie? And she couldn't really articulate what it was about the movie that was feminist. She like normally in that position, you've made a movie, you spend all this time producing a film, getting out there, you should know that movie front to back, at the very least, what you want people to take from it, even if you're going to leave it open to their interpretation. You should have an elevator pitch as to why this works. And she wasn't really able to give one to anyone. So it was like, I was like, your theory is genius. The problem is I don't think that was her theory. So I think like maybe that's good art. maybe that's a sign of good art, is that even though she didn't intend for that to be what you took from it, you took from it anyway. And at the end of the day, one of the things I say a lot is like, look, movies, television, music are the most subjective things in the world. And there's nothing I hate more than somebody telling you you can't like something. Kick rocks. You can like whatever the hell you want. I do not like I can tell you why I don't like it, but I'm not going to tell you you're wrong for liking this movie.
Amen. Amen. And I also like, this is this is the ex-college professor in me coming out, but I also think that in even the most obnoxious art, or art that might have, movies that might have political messages that we hate, like you can still find things of value, ideas of value. You can still appreciate it. And so I like that. And so Barbie, it has made a shitload of money. So Greta Gerwig has definitely, she's like the director of the year, I guess, with the success that that's been.
I will push back, like not push back on it, but the thing is like it just became the highest grossing movie of the year. And it just beat out Super Mario Brothers. But think about how much less buzz there was around the Super Mario Brothers movie to just barely beat Super Mario Brothers, right? So
That's
the Super
true.
Mario Brothers
That's
movie,
true.
which is for kids, and that's where your demographic is. I really do think we're starting to see a shift into making movies that, look, comic book movies. We just did a topic today, top 20 movies of the year, and of them, 20 movies, 10 of them lost money, even though they're in the top 20 movies of the year. And only 2 superhero movies in that list made any money at all, and that was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think we're starting to see a push. I think video game movies will end up being more where these studios are going to go, because the superhero well is starting to run dry. They're better off. If you haven't seen the Gran Turismo movie, to anyone watching, go see the Gran Turismo movie. It's incredible. Like movies that have like Super Mario Brothers doesn't have to have a big plot, because it's, as a game, it doesn't need it, right? So it gives the writers room to work with Easter eggs and make what they want with it, right? So it gives them more leeway, and you're going to have less of the pushback, because superhero movies have just become such a part of the culture war now. And it's kind of frustrating, but yeah, you can find something you like in any movie. There's plenty of movies that I don't necessarily like that have scenes that I like, that have themes that I like. Yeah.
Yeah, except I can't handle another Avatar movie. No, that's another topic altogether. No, but seriously, if this is going to be, if what we're seeing is a transition or a move away from the ubiquity of superhero movies, like just so there's just such a glut, and there has been for a while, of superhero movies. If that's what we're moving, if we're moving away from that, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry to people who love these movies and just want to see more and more of them, but I'm going to be glad to see a shift away from them, because here's the thing. They basically starve out other films, like you were talking about funding. There's funding that would be going to other projects, yes?
Well, here's the other thing. Of those top 20 movies, almost all of them that made money cost $100 million. They set that sweet spot right there. Like all the big budget ones are $250 million. I think Fast and the Furious 10, which made like $760 million, didn't make any money because it cost $340 million to make. So you take $340 million, you then have to take times that by 1.5 to find the budget. You subtract the fact that studios take 50% of that money, and you have to make close to $1 billion or more before you even start sniffing profitability. So Sound of Freedom cost $15 million to make, made $188 million. Insidious cost $16 million to make, made $190 million. Megan cost $12 million to make, made like $180 million. You're better off spending less money on these things. And if they fail, so what? You invested way less of your time and money into these smaller projects. So they should be splitting them up amongst better stories. Spend your money on a good writer. A good writer, find yourself 1 or 2 leads and John Wick, $100 million. You spend your money on Keanu Reeves. The fact that they were able to make that movie for that little money because Keanu Reeves is just Mr. Nice Guy and doesn't need to up his paycheck every movie, right?
Yeah,
They don't need to make as much money if they don't spend so much damn money making them.
Right, it's true. And when studios do happen upon those small budget films that end up blowing up, it is amazing. I was thinking about the other day, about years ago, the first Paranormal Activity movie, and people have seen those. They're just basic found footage horror films. And yet the first one, I was reading that first one, it cost $15,000 to make, and it made $150 million, and then spawned an entire. I mean, that was Blumhouse, right? An entire production house.
And that's what they're doing with like the Insidious franchises, the Nun. What's the other ones? I'm not a huge horror buff, but a lot of these Abigail, like a lot of these franchises, they make a lot of money and they cost so little to do, right? And the other thing is, like, of those top 3 movies, so it was Super Mario Brothers, Barbie, and Oppenheimer. None of them crossed $100 million in budget. So, like, why are you spending $250 million when you have a 1 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10 chance that it ends up making money? The Guardians of the Galaxy made $800-something million and barely made any money.
Oh, it did not make, even with that. Yeah,
because it made it, but it didn't make enough. Like, nobody invests $250 million plus marketing
small returns
to make a couple $1 million back, right?
Yeah,
like, what's the point?
That's true. That's true. Well, so I wanted to ask you, I feel like there's so much stuff that has happened this week. I wanted to ask you about some things. I want to make sure we get to super chats. So Kyle Rittenhouse, or Ryle Kittenhouse. I was excited for a second. I thought maybe it was Mr. Kyle Rittenhouse.
Wouldn't that be good?
Oh man. No, Ryle Kittenhouse, next best thing, says Brett is Brett Take King. Am I supposed to understand that?
Well, at least he's spelling my name right. Everyone in the chat was purposely
I know. I saw
people
were talking about how your Wikipedia is it's messed up with the names. It's shocking that Wikipedia would have errors. I don't know. I don't believe that. No, but we've got several things we wanted to talk about. So there's more serious stuff. And maybe we'll get to the Danny Masterson thing a little bit down the road, because I didn't want to launch into something super serious right now.
That's actually something that, like, sometimes we'll do the thing where it's like we're doing 2 topics and you have to decide what order you're going to do them in, because there's nothing worse. And sometimes I'll be cutting a segment together where we just said something funny, and then I'm like, and then this guy went and did this awful thing to someone, and I'm still smiling, and I'm like, I can't put that in the video. I look like a sociopath.
Yeah, sometimes the transitions are funny, especially if they're edited together. But I mean, sometimes even just the stream of consciousness of a conversation is, you'll go from one thing to another. Well, I do want to talk about Danny Masterson, but let's start with something a little more trivial. So do you want to talk first about Sophie Turner and Joe Jonas, or do you want to talk about, we can talk about Kanye and Bianca? Go.
Never, if you had asked me 10 years ago if I would be talking about a Jonas brother on anything, I would have told you you're absolutely bonkers. Let's go there. Let's do that.
So basically, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. I'm going to throw some pictures up here, but basically it seems like there's 2 narratives that have emerged. And I don't know if they're actually, when people say it's coming from their camps, I don't know if it's literally being instigated by the principals themselves or by some of their people, or just some lousy friends who are looking to make a little money from the tabloids. But the 2 narratives that have emerged, tell me if this is basically it, is that either are choices that either A, Sophie Turner is like the worst mom who's ever lived, and she is just out at the bars every night getting trashed, and Joe Jonas is Father of the Year. Or on the other hand, Joe Jonas is this sort of like very old-fashioned, very controlling, very traditional guy that took this young flower, and she hadn't even really bloomed, and he just like took her and like shut her away in this house where she had to produce children. What do you think?
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
I think that what we all know, and if you're a rational person, is that the truth lies somewhere closer to the middle on both instances, right? Like, do I buy that the society could have propagandized her to believe that having kids and starting a beautiful family is wasting your early 20s? I believe that society could make a person believe that. Do I think that that's the case here? I have no idea. It's what I tend to come down to in these situations. Same thing with the government. I just don't trust any of them. I don't trust any of them to be telling me 110% the truth. I did find it funny that after the filings, he goes out and like very publicly takes his kids out for ice cream or whatever outside where people can take photos. Look at me. I'm a fantastic dad. Yes, he probably is a really, really good dad. And she probably does have some things that are, turning out to be a little bit of an eyesore for them right now with this stuff.
Do you have a theory as to what's on the Ring camera?
I just love that that's a thing. Okay, here's what I think it is. I think that she's on the Ring camera and she's talking to her friend. She's like, Nick was better looking anyways, or something like that. She says, like, because they were saying that apparently she's very jealous of, again, more of this absolutely ridiculous hearsay, but that she's jealous of the other brother's relationship with his wife,
Priya, right?
Who if you watch my show, know that Priyanka, if you're watching, I'm available. You can call me.
Priyanka is a beauty. I understand you.
Gorgeous woman, right? But like they're saying that they're jealous of Priyanka because like she's more mature, she's older than him, and they've got this more stable relationship. I don't know. It's absolutely insane.
Well, I talked about this the other day on my channel, and I said that in and this may not be the comprehensive, a comprehensive list of all of her interviews, but every interview I've ever read or seen with Sophie Turner, she talks about her mental health. And that's great, people being open about it. But like, if you're bringing it up in every single interview and she talks about it, like it's consistently something that, I had to go back to England, my mental health, or Joe, we had to have this really serious conversation right before we got married. I almost was a runaway bride because I was having mental health issues. And he told me, sweetie, you just got to own it, whatever. And I'm thinking, that's great that he's really supportive. But then you marry someone who has these kinds of issues, and then you start having the kids really soon. Like, this is the thing I don't understand. You explain this to me, okay? Do you have children?
I do not.
Okay, great. Then you're perfect to explain parenthood to me. I don't have children either. Yeah. So as two people who don't have kids, I don't understand why, when it is obvious that a couple is having marital problems, that they continue to have kids. Like Kanye and Kim, don't tell me that like all 50 of those kids that they had were conceived when things were just hunky-dory between them. So I don't get it.
I mean, the hope would be that like they're just like, I mean, I can't speak for any of them, but my hope would be that it happened and they're not looking to, like, maybe they're just not they don't believe in abortion. If so, good for
so
them,
it's just
right?
Not like they're just not on top of maybe the birth control.
Yeah. but also for this stuff, right? Like, also, by the way, a woman or a guy, especially in Hollywood, endlessly talking about mental health because it is important, but it's so Western, upper class to be able to talk about it so consistently because look, we do have to worry about these things, and it doesn't matter. And I almost think like society was better off before we gave terms to everything, before it had this like very, very specific label to it, right? I had to go home because I was struggling with, and then I want to hear specific examples, not your mental health, which is just an amorphous term that blankets all of your that blankets all of your life. What were the specific things, right? Because when I hear mental health, I hear buzzword. My brain just hears buzzword.
Yeah. And so I think too that, I remember that before they got married, she was a really big partier, and I'm not judging that or what have you, but there were all these tabloid pictures of her. One of them, I brought this up the other night. It was a British term that I'd never heard, gurning, which apparently means tripping balls, basically.
Awesome.
I bet there were these pictures of Sophie Turner in the back of a London cab with like this or whatever, and all these headlines, gurning uncontrollably in the back of the cab. But I'm just thinking, well, maybe when Joe married her, he should have known that, this was not going to be Mrs. Stay at Home, if that is indeed what happened.
And look, it's one of the things, like, what is it? I still can't believe I have to know all this stuff. It's hilarious. Millie Bobby Brown is getting married. and she's like 18 years old, and people are either very happy about that or very upset about that, because they're like, you know, she's going to have the typical feminist saying like, but don't you want to go do a bunch of men for the next 7 to 8 years? Wouldn't you like to go and have random sex with a bunch of guys you don't care about? Because that is what finding yourself actually means in a lot of these cases. She's not going to need to go to college. Maybe she will, but she's got a very successful career that she's building for herself. So if she's saying, I want to settle down, I met this guy, I want to get married, like I say, like, look, do I believe it's going to be forever? That probably not, but I'm glad you want to try. I'm glad that you at least are putting the effort in, because society at every level is telling everybody not to do that. Don't get married young. Don't go do this. I think that, I'm not saying everyone should or has to, but it's nice to know that there are some people that still put value in this, and maybe, just maybe, every so often, some of these go for a long time and actually do last forever.
Yeah, I don't think that those choices should be shamed. And I do think it's interesting how there's so much of a fixation on age gaps now in our
Yes.
society. And oh, if it's an older man and a younger woman, it must be grooming, and not, maybe it's kind of cool that, you know, she's wanting someone who's a little more mature, that she's wanting maybe a different life than going out. Like, why is it better to go have lots of sex with frat boys? Are frat
Yeah.
boys better than an older settled man? Like, I really don't exactly get it.
So then you end up somewhere between that and Al Pacino and Nicola,
Oh, that's a good one to bring up.
who is 29, and before Al Pacino dated Mick Jagger, and I forget who the other one was, but
Yes, she dated Clint Eastwood even. To me,
she's
that
got
was
an
the
older guy. She's got a kink for older guys, and that's, you know, she's an adult. She comes from money, so I don't think that it
Yeah,
has to do with
she's
money.
not. No, I know. Have been seeing a lot of coverage of this woman. We're talking about Al Pacino's baby mama, Noor Al-Fala. I've been seeing a lot of coverage that calls her a gold digger, and she has a ton of money, people. That's how she got in these circles in the first
Yeah.
place. And so she brings her own money to the table. I think that she really likes these guys, and you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not sure how feasible it is long term, but if she knows what she's getting into, and I have to say though, I love The Godfather, I love Al Pacino,
Yeah.
and I would consider, if I, you know, I'm in my 40s now, so I might not be fertile, but if I were, I would consider having the Pacino baby, just to say I am helping to perpetuate Al Pacino's genes.
I will allow him to. I will not criticize him simply because he made Heat, which is my favorite movie of all time.
Ah, Heat is a great movie.
Heat is my favorite movie of all time. And look,
Great movie.
when his kid is 18, he's going to be 101. So my hope is that, you know, he gets a walker and he can walk his child, you know, like out of the stadium, out of the auditorium when they get married. But there actually is, like, look, that's actually a fair question. Like, some people were asking, like, is it ethical for someone to have a child at 83 knowing that you're not going to be there past the first 18 years of your life? That's actually a really interesting philosophical question that we wouldn't have been able to have until Viagra was invented. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. And then you get into, and then you think, well, okay, maybe it would, all things being equal, be better to have a father in the picture the whole time. But then we know there are tons and tons of people who have kids who don't or can't have that, or and still have loving environments. So here's the question. It was a similar question that came up for me. Elizabeth Holmes, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but just briefly, Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos, you know who that is, obviously.
Yep.
I thought that it was an interesting, really interesting question, that this moral question of whether or not she should have had children, because she had two children, they're young kids, knowing that she was about to be incarcerated. And to me, that seems really selfish. But then some people in my life were telling me, well, she can't have them otherwise, when, you know, she has a right to have kids, to which I would say she doesn't have a right to have kids necessarily. But like, I thought that was kind of the same thing, kind of strange. Like, you're going to make your kid go for the first, what, I guess like 10 years without a mom around.
She looks different in every photo. You know what? Like, I'm actually gonna. I have to see if I can send you. I did this thing Yes, I'm literally sending it to you on Twitter right now.
Okay, cool.
See if you can pull this up. It's really funny. Like, this is I found two separate actresses that if they were gonna portray Elizabeth Holmes in a movie, these are the ladies that I would have had cast for them. Robin Weigert and Alona Tal. So depending on if you want homely looking mean Elizabeth Holmes or kind of hot turtleneck Elizabeth Holmes, you can get different people to play
I'm gonna
her.
have to get it later. I'm on a different computer. It's not letting me log
Yeah.
in. So, but I'll check it and I'll put it up a little later though.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a weird question to ask, right? Like, should you be allowed to, or not allowed, but should it be considered ethical to have children knowing that you're going to go away? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But we got a super chat. Shane Wilder says, "Shout out to Brett with 2 T's from a crisis actor."
Yes, my friend Shane. Good to see you today during the show as well, buddy.
All right. So I wanted to ask, and I have to show the picture. I'm sorry, but we have to talk about Kanye a little. And look, I understand that like there are some people over on the Timcast side that like Kanye or have like a kind of a friendship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or no?
Was Shane interviewed him.
Okay.
Shane interviewed him. Shane is I think Shane is a very big supporter of him as far as he has a very intellectual approach to Kanye.
Yeah, I'll have to get Shane on here sometime and we can argue about Kanye then. But like, I'm not at all. I just want to say, first of all, I'm not at all a Kanye hater. And I don't like whatever that was with the Jew stuff a while back, but I'm not a Kanye hater. I didn't approve of that. I'm not a Kanye hater. And I really appreciate, and I don't know if you remember this or not, Brett, you probably do, but I really appreciate that he stuck up for Marilyn Manson.
Yes,
when like no one else would. When he had him on
songs.
Show. Yeah, he had him on he had him on songs. That's right. And then he also invited him to go to one of his listening parties, one of his first shows and what have you. And so he was on TV with Kanye and everything. So I do appreciate that. But and look, I'm not a prude when it comes to sex. It doesn't actually offend me if she was giving him a blowjob in Venice or Florence or whatever on that boat. It's not that, but I just wonder, why does he seem to have such a desire to persistently behave in such bizarre ways and to put her in situations where I don't actually think it's to her benefit? I think he's made her into a laughingstock. Am I wrong on that? What do you think?
I think she's an adult who's making her own decisions. I think
am I paternalizing her?
Yeah, like I think in a lot of ways, like, look, she's making a value judgment on how she's going to be perceived. I don't think this is going to hurt her career down the line. I don't. Like, I think our society is at a point now. Like, am I supposed to believe that society, Hollywood, which is obsessed with sex, is going to like blacklist this lady because she gave Kanye West a blowjob on a boat? You should, however, see there's a really great Photoshop that somebody made
for this.
of
There's a Photoshop
Barack Obama on the boat instead of.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm gonna Google it in a second then. So, does this have to do with the Larry Sinclair thing?
Yeah.
Oh, no. We can talk about that in a second too. Okay, so look, I don't know how much of Kanye's.
Did you see the photo of her today? Did you see the photo of her today with the pillow?
I did. She was carrying, and so, by the way, y'all, I can't find the exact. Oh, here's the picture. People are wondering. That's the picture. Yeah. So she's been wearing such interesting styles, Bianca, during their long sojourn in Italy. But she actually went out yesterday with just tights and a cushion.
Yeah.
Like a
no, they made her. They were saying they made her wear that because she was like. At least the article I read said she was forced to do that.
Oh, the Italians did?
Yeah. I don't know if that's true. That's I caught that in passing.
Right. I have to get a picture of
it's a very king-like purple cushion too. It's very royal.
I have to find it then. Okay, Bianca Sensori, and it's oh shoot.
It is fascinating how different she looks. Considering she was an absolutely gorgeous woman before, and she's still pretty, but she was so different looking before.
So, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, and yes, you're right. But are you telling me that the Italians made her carry this pillow around?
That's what, at least on TMZ, it said that. But whether that's actually, if they didn't, and this is actually him doing that, then she needs to decide whether she's okay with that. Otherwise, it's time to run for the hills.
Oh, wow.
I also love that he walks around barefoot.
Yeah, yeah, they've both been, well, she's normally in the heels, and especially the white heels. I've never seen her in nude heels up to this point. Oh, we've got a super chat here. Sorry. So Jamie Archangel says Joe has lamented in many interviews. Oh, talking about Joe Jonas, that Sophie is too much of a homebody. She always prefers to stay home, and Joe says he's the opposite. So it wouldn't be shocking to find out that this media narrative is, oh my gosh, it's not accurate, right?
Well, no, because what they're saying is that the person that did the anonymous interview, which is already sign number one that you should be weary of what you're reading, is that she laments the fact that she missed out on her partying years because she decided to have kids and didn't get to go do all the things that she wanted to do. And
I
look,
see.
again, I know, like I say, go do whatever you want to do, but I do find it kind of weird how society has devalued the idea of marriage as something where it's like, you're not like marriage is sacrifice. Having kids is a sacrifice, and you have to make a value judgment on going out, whether going out and partying and doing things with your friends, assuming that what they're saying is true, is having kids and being in a stable, loving marriage worth that sacrifice? And it feels like society does everything to push people to the idea that it's not worth the sacrifice. But
Right.
again, like I said, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I do believe that it's unfair to the children to then, if we were to buy into this whole hog, she's like, you know what? I just can't say no to shots and
To
live
gurning.
music. Yeah,
I
to
have to
gurning.
gurn.
And then she pushes it too far, and then it causes the end of their marriage. I can fault her for continuing to do it, and I can fault him for, not trying harder to stick it out. Right? The kids matter in this situation.
Exactly. No, it's true. It's true. And when you have kids, whether it's accidental or you wanted to, then I mean, then you're signing over or signing away your autonomy.
Yep.
These were these pictures that came out. Oh shoot.
I saw the gurn. That's got to be the
This
gurning
is the
picture, right?
gurning photo, and she had gum in her mouth, and so they were making a big deal too of the fact that she had this gum open mouth. I don't know, maybe she was like rolling on what we used to call ecstasy back in the day. I'm an old lady,
Molly.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, we were talking the other day about like, it's like the last thing you want to do, because we had Libby Emmons on. And she was talking about going to like Lollapalooza in '94 on acid, and just getting lost, and we were talking about all that stuff, and it's like they were talking about people at Burning Man. We were talking about people at Burning Man, and just imagine like all this stuff is going on with Burning Man right now, where people are stranded.
Oh
And I was
man.
like, you don't want to, like, the come down from ecstasy is awful, or the come down from Molly sucks anyways. Imagine having to come down from Molly while you're out in the middle of nowhere, Nevada, and stranded.
Yeah, well, it just talking about somebody giving up a life of partying for a more domestic life. I definitely got tired of the party scene after like 2 years when I in college, and so I was like, okay, I I don't know. I went to Bonnaroo several years. They still have
Ah,
Bonnaroo, right? It used to be not so commercial like back in
yeah.
the earlier years, and anyway, but I remember one time I went, and it was my mid 20s, and it was so hot and dry, and there's dust everywhere, and I was just like had sand in my contacts and dirt in my contacts, and I just remember thinking at one point, I think I'm kind of past this. I
Yeah.
don't.
Okay, so here's the question: how old were you when that happened?
Well, I think I was a little okay, let me just say though, I was kind of a late bloomer because I was raised in a very conservative family, and so I didn't drink or smoke or date or anything until I went to college, and then I was like got into really into the partying, right? But I would say that I got tired of it after a couple of years, so mid 20s.
So the idea here is what? So she's lamenting the idea that, say she goes that route, she goes
Uh-huh.
2 years of she gets it out of her system, she drinks all the rum and coke she wants till she's 29, right? She does all the Molly and
All
drinks
the Molly, all
all
the
the ecstasy.
gurning she
Yeah,
wants.
like, it's for 2 years, and then you're saying that what, that's worth giving up the husband and the kids, in the stable relationship with the husband and the kids in the same place. Now you've got to move to
Yes,
separate
it is worth
houses.
it, Brett. It is
uh,
worth.
apparently it's worth it. Well, I'm going to tell you, the kids aren't going to think it's worth it. The kids
Oh
won't think it was
man.
worth it.
Yeah, I am probably the worst person to talk to on any of this, because I've gone such an unconventional path in my life. You know, I knew, and this is not me being anti-mom or anything, okay? Because obviously we need to, it's in our interest to have a lot of women that are really into the idea of motherhood, okay?
Mm.
But I, from a very early age, it's kind of like some kids talk about knowing that they were trans since they were
Mhm.
3 or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying I buy into all that, but like from the earliest age, like I knew that I was not going to have kids. And people would, like, even if someone gave me a doll, like a baby doll, I would go, no. And I would like,
Yeah, get away from it.
and so but anyway, as I got older, I never I like, I look at kids and I think, "Oh, they're cute and that's a really fulfilling way of life," but I just knew that I would never do it. It wasn't for me. And so, but let me just say this. I think that I've always taken motherhood extremely seriously, because I
Yeah.
would never have a kid under those conditions. Like, it's never occurred to me to just, oh, well, everybody has kids, so I should go ahead and do it too. It's like, no, that is serious business. And so for someone like Sophie Turner, whether she outgrew her life or she didn't have enough time to party or whatever, like, once you sign on for that, I agree with you. You've signed on, and
Mm.
I hope that the press reports out there are not true about her being a reckless mom or whatever, or really dumping it all on Joe,
Yeah.
because that would be unfortunate. But anyways, I don't know. I don't know.
Look, at the end of the day, when you see these stories and you hear these sensationalized narratives about she's the worst mom ever and he's just Mr. Dad, he's just
Right.
like,
Right.
the truth is always going to lie somewhere closer to the middle. And anybody who's been in any type of serious relationships knows it gets complicated, right? So
Yeah.
if your own life, not famous, not celebrity, not with millions of dollars, proper, homes in multiple countries, like if it's complicated for you, it's complicated for them. And very rarely is it so simple, because you know what, or the media, they cash out on the fact that one of these people is a monster, because that moves,
Yeah.
that sells tape. It makes money.
Right.
So, and it's really funny too, because when we talk about this stuff, I'm always like, it would be easier if I just wanted to be like, and that's why she's a scumbag, or that's why he's a scumbag. But I can't do that. Like, my brain always goes to like, what's the middle ground? Because there's
Right.
probably middle ground here.
No, it's true. It's true. I remember when I was a little kid, I used to love watching the old classics on Nick at Night. I don't know if you remember Nick at Night, but like,
Yep.
I loved the Dick Van Dyke Show. And I remember there was one episode where they have a fight. Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore, their characters, they have a big blow up. And then the show is, the first 10 minutes is his version of the fight and then her version of the fight. And they're completely different.
Yep.
Right. And then you see the real, and then the real fight is like something in between. So,
That's actually honestly a really good commentary on just how disparate our views can be, when, especially when you're emotional, right? Like when you're in an emotional state, people are gonna, is you have the same thing, like when you have that friend who tells you their side of a story for something you weren't
mhm,
there for, and somehow
mhm.
they were wronged at every corner. Now
I know.
I'm like, look, bro, I'm gonna take your side anyway because you're my friend. Like, you don't have to lie to me. But we all know that most people embellish just a little bit to make themselves
Sure.
look better in a story. It's human nature to do that.
And
Like,
if you have borderline personality disorder, then you do it a lot. I have had some people in my life, some passing through my life at times, that I have suspected, based on how they behave, they had borderline personality disorder. And it was like you said, every story that they would tell, it's one person oppressing them,
yeah,
or bothering them, or being an asshole to them, one thing after another. It's like life is always happening to them.
yeah. It's like the year 2015 came, and everybody in the world that ever got broken up with was a toxic narcissist. Somebody, like, the person that they broke up with is a toxic narcissist who is out to get them. I'm like, sure, maybe that's true for some of these cases, or maybe a relationship just didn't work and things fell apart and both parties are guilty of something.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, it's true, it's true. Except when it comes to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, so
Did you see that he got his Dior contract renewed?
I mean, recently, you mean? There was another
I
renewal?
There was an article in the news today or
Oh,
yesterday
oh.
that like another $20 million with for Savage or whatever.
Well, good for him. He's going
Yeah,
from strength to strength. I have been hearing a lot, I don't know if you have, about this new documentary called Surviving Amber Heard. And it's apparently it was not done by a well-known production. They call themselves Randos Productions, but a well-known production
I love
house. I
it.
mean,
I love the
but it's
name.
really well made. And so I was thinking, because you were mentioning today something about how people who want to break into, I think on Twitter maybe, people who want to break into the entertainment industry, it's becoming more and more it's becoming more and more possible to do it yourself, to not have to climb this
Hmm.
ladder, this institutional ladder.
Yep. Yeah, especially with like you. The problem is like the people who are set on Hollywood establishment. What they want is they want the investment and they want the lack of risk. If you're going to do it yourself, you're going to have to undergo enormous risk,
Mhm.
enormous work, meaning
Mhm.
that you don't have a marketing team. You do not have a post production team. You do it on your own. And that is a lot harder for a lot of people to want to swallow because, at the end of the day, if you take the money from Hollywood, sure, they're going to silence you on some stuff, but a lot of them, they don't want to put in I'm not faulting them. Like I can fault them for making bad movies. I can fault them for having trash opinions on stuff, but I'm not going to fault anybody. Like, look, I work for a company where we do a lot of work, right? Like it's when we do the show, we have Jessica helps us with some of the like the graphic design for like the daily thumbnails for like one of the daily thumbnails. But the rest is like when we get done, it's me and Mary, and we have Dane helps us with social media. But if you're gonna do this on your own, you're gonna have to do it with less people and less of a team behind you.
Right.
And we have that. Like we have people that work with us. There's people with even less than us that do it unbelievably well. And they get to reap the benefit because another thing that comes with that, like with that documentary or like with people who choose to make things on their own, is that one thing that people put a huge value on now is authenticity. People
Mhm.
can smell fake from a mile away, whether we're
Mhm.
talking Hollywood opinions, things like that.
It's true.
Yeah, like right, like so when we're done with the show, right? Like Mary, I give a timestamp to Mary, or she has a timestamp where she starts cutting together the shorts. I cut up the YouTube segments. I finish the thumbnails. I do the audio version, stuff like that. It's a small group of people doing that. Now, if you're doing that on your own, not for a company, like I said, we're part of a larger company. But if you're doing that on your own, it's a lot more work, but there's a lot more chance that you're going to be able to profit from it. And I hope the people who made that documentary end up getting to make more money from it, especially if people take to it because they feel that it's not tied to a Hollywood narrative.
Exactly, exactly, and I think you're exactly right, that we're this is the dawning age of authenticity, or a real desire for authenticity
Yeah.
that's undercutting, it is undercutting, and it's killing the major institutions, and for the most part, thank God for that, it's a good thing. I wanted to take this opportunity to, plug your show since you brought it up. So this is Pop Culture Crisis, and I've had the pleasure of being on there before, and so, yeah, check them out. I just put the link there, and, yeah.
5 days a week. 5 days a
Yeah,
week.
you
Yeah.
guys and you guy and lady, you are extremely prolific, and I really see what you're doing as a model for where I would like to get in terms of my output, my productivity, because you always have stuff that you're popping out.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, but it's like at the end of the day, I had this funny discussion with someone the other day where it was like we got back after Labor Day weekend, and you're so programmed from a young age. Like if you're not a fan of school and you have a long weekend, you're so depressed when you go back to school. At least I was. I was
Mhm.
depressed when I
Oh,
went
yeah.
back to school on Tuesday or whatever after a long weekend, and it was like it's so programmed into me that I was like depressed Monday night after Labor Day, and I'm like, and I stopped and think about it, I'm like you love your job. Why are you feeling this way? So it's like I had to actually like train my brain to remember you don't hate getting up for work in the morning. You love getting up for work in the morning. And that's where the authenticity comes. Like, look, if you're making a documentary on Amber Heard in your Netflix
Mhm.
and your production team says, this is what we want to come from this, you're going to get whatever the hell. They're going to work together to cut things together to make sure it comes out that way. If you look at all the documentaries, for instance, of Jeffrey Epstein that are out
Mhm.
there, go look on, I don't know what streaming services they're on. I think one of them's on Amazon, one of them's on Hulu. You'll notice that there's a very particular individual that's always on the cover with Mr. Epstein, and it's Donald Trump. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, right.
Because some scumbag executive in Hollywood said, look, we can't ignore it. It's too big not to do and make money off of. But how can we bend this in our favor? It's the truth, but it's intellectually dishonest because of all of the people you're protecting by doing this. Because you're turning it on the one person that you've turned into a scapegoat for the country. And you're making it about that before they even click on it. Hollywood's full of scumbags.
Right. No, it's true. Filters, these very intentionalized filters and agendas, and absolutely. And so, but more for us, hopefully, as people start waking up. So I wanted to move on to talk a little bit about the Jimmy Fallon. What do you think about this? Do you have any opinions?
Yes, I have one strong opinion. I said it on our show earlier. I would rather be accosted by a drunken Jimmy Fallon before I would ever have to want to watch Jimmy Kimmel cry in person.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Kimmel.
the late night, the lecture happy late night class have a special place in hell waiting for them after COVID. And I don't, I have no, it's a hard industry. You have a lot of deadlines. There's a lot of money that's dumped into these productions. It's going to be one of those things where, like, on its face, you have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, and that's going to lead to some bad bosses, I guess. But at the end of the day, he sucks, and the people working there have to make the decision for themselves. Like, this work environment isn't good for me. I'm going to file my, claim that will probably be ignored and move on to another job. Right?
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like, I think at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own actions, and you can make that claim all you want. But this is just going to be the next level of Me Too, right? It's toxic. It's toxic workplaces, not just a guy who was a little too handsy with me.
Yeah, and I think that it's the problem is that we're getting into a really subjective evaluation of behavior. Like, I understand on the extremes, people might agree, well, you shouldn't be coming to work constantly drunk and screaming at people. I'm not saying that's what exactly is alleged about him, but we all understand that there are extremes of behavior that should not that shouldn't occur. But also, like, there's a spectrum of behavior, and we don't know when we get these reports in the media or when people file lawsuits, we don't know if we're getting the perspective of truth. We're not getting a disinterested perspective. These people have agendas, and I understand everybody has an agenda, but these people who are making these claims, they have agendas, and I don't want to get to the point where a stressful work environment becomes almost like a crime or some kind of a cancelable offense, particularly, like I was saying in one of my videos, at the level that you're at with these Hollywood people, with these, like, and we can say that we don't like their shows or whatever, but I'm just talking about in terms of the expectations, like top of the line productions. I would expect there to be a lot of stress. And honestly, I thought that until now, it was always kind of understood that artistic personalities, that very creative people, also have temperamental issues. And there's a part of me that would give someone like this a pass for a certain amount of behavior up to a certain point, just like with the Lizzo thing. I would give certain behavior a pass up to a point, because I mean, this is a huge pop star, and part what people understand, that there's certain behaviors that are different than if you're working at Allstate down the street, I think.
I give no vagina bananas leeway. Zero leeway to vagina bananas. I will look, especially with directors in Hollywood. Yeah, like you're just like a David O. Russell, who has been he did Amsterdam, who is known for being just a rough dude to work with. But the same thing happened to Joss Whedon, right? Like, Joss Whedon just proved to be
a lot of people, yeah.
And you're right. Like, at the end of the day, I think it's a thing where people have to make a decision for themselves. Like, can you handle working in these environments? And I would have a lot more sympathy if the industry wasn't full of virtue signaling scumbags who love to lecture the rest of the public on how they should behave.
True.
Now, if you're just saying that, it's why people kind of give a pass to James Cameron. He's
Mhm.
he's annoying, he's self-centered, he's egotistical, but he makes money, and he doesn't, for the most part, like pretend like he's the nicest guy in the world. He admits that, like, his production, that Michael Bay was the same way. Megan Fox was like, he made me work 12 to 18 hours a day. Oh my gosh. Like,
Mhm.
to make
Welcome to
millions of
Hollywood.
to make millions of dollars, you are expected to work the same shift that a police officer works, a 12-hour day, right? Like,
Well, the Megan Fox thing was so disingenuous too, because at first she presented it, and the media really ran with this. She presented it as if because she said that he made her wash his car, and she depicted it almost as a kind of sexual harassment, and then it was later sort of as an afterthought that, oh, well, I was auditioning for a role in Transformers. It was actually a part of an audition process, but she tried to make it seem as if, like, he had just asked, her over randomly
Yeah.
to like, he's like pleasuring himself, he's watching her on the car. So this addiction to, like, these victim narratives, I think you and I both dislike this. Yes, there are true victims. There is certainly, I know, a lot of predatory behavior in Hollywood, the entertainment industry, but also there is increasingly a real addiction also, I think, to these victim narratives. I wanted to show our viewers, before we move on from it, you reminded me of this. I don't think a number probably of my viewers have seen this classic fight between David Russell and Lily Tomlin. So David O. Russell, for people who don't know, David O. Russell was the director of, oh God, he did American Hustler. What was the name of it? Yeah, American Hustle.
And Amsterdam came out last year. That was his movie that just recently came out.
I Heart Huckabees, Three Kings. Yeah, he's done it, and so he's known as being a top of the line director, but he apparently is a really rough director to work for. So Lily Tomlin, one of the greats, she was in I Heart Huckabees, and they got into a lot. So I wanted to show this clip of it's hard to see, but it's bad resolution, but you can see them in this fight here. So we'll watch this and I'll come back. All right.
Photos of yourself. See, it's harder actually to pick it up from the damn desk.
Okay.
You were planning.
Right, take a beat and preset it. Put the fucking thing down.
Oh, and that's Dustin Hoffman, who's trying to stay chill in all of this.
Hold it down for a second.
Well,
to use both hands.
Yeah, and take your legs off the desk and a whole bunch of other stuff.
It says you gotta keep it. You can take your legs down.
We can find. Okay, for Christ's sake, let's just take it one fucking line at a time. Instead of changing everything, it's very difficult to even create what you're going to do when it's constant a barrage of change this, do this. No, wait, do it a different way. Don't get me started. Okay, so I'm just saying, let's just, it's impossible. One actor's doing one thing, another actor's doing another, and
what's funny about this, in a second, of course you've seen it, is that Russell is staying pretty calm right now. Yep. He's like talking, and then it's like something just breaks, and he just goes on a rampage. See in a second.
I'm not as brilliant as you. I can't keep up with you. We're being very efficient.
Let's rehearse.
You're being impatient.
Let's rehearse.
I couldn't understand you. And it's not the first time.
This I Heart Huckabees.
Fuck you! I'm just trying to fucking help you. Do you understand me?
No,
I'm being a fucking collaborator. I was trying to help you figure out your fucking picture. Hey, bitch, I'm not here to be fucking yelled at. I worked on this fucking thing for 3 fucking years, not to have some fucking cunt yell at me in front of the fucking crew when I'm trying to fucking help you, bitch. Figure it out yourself.
Well, I have to figure it out.
Yeah, fuck yourself.
Good. Why don't you fuck your whole movie? Why don't you fuck your whole movie? Because that's what you're doing.
I mean, he comes back in a minute.
We better get some insurance against the director.
He'll be back. He's coming back.
You're a fucking grown up. Act like a grown up. You're not a baby. You're a fucking grown up. I'm here to fucking help you. That's all I'm doing. Trying to help you.
I love that he comes to the door.
I know.
How did he get there?
Do I not fucking yell at you before right now? No. I never fucking yelled at you. You fucking
Put that on the budget, or even think of the famous
Good.
Think of the famous Christian Bale blow up on the set of Terminator Salvation.
Oh yeah, let's listen to that. We can just
Yeah.
listen to,
Oh,
these all
good
night.
for you.
Yeah, well, some people might not have
like,
heard it. Okay, so Christian Bale tantrum. I'll just see if that brings it up. So I think what happened is that a guy had he was having kind of a bad day, and then this guy walked in front of the camera or something. We won't listen to the whole thing, but we'll listen to some.
Good old MCG.
Come back.
Well, and I understand, like, somebody in the comments was saying that the reason why people get away with shitty behavior in Hollywood is because of this attitude that I was espousing. Oh, the artistic temperament and stuff. Yeah, I get it, but at the same time,
It
like,
will never exist. These industries will never exist without it. There's too much. Emotions are too raw.
yeah,
The stories are too personal. There's too much money. There's too much relying on these people to get stuff done. When you take huge budgets, very, very expensive films, scripts that take years to write, enormous egos, and I mean enormous egos, and you put this all in a room for 18 hours a day where 957 things have to go just right just to get it done, you're going to have this type of stuff happen. It's the fact that it doesn't happen more is actually shocking.
No, it's true. It's true. And they do work on an insane schedule. I know people say, "Oh yeah, Hollywood, it's such a hard life," or whatever. I'm not saying that, but like they do work insane schedules. All right, we'll watch this Christian Bale rant for a little while.
Okay, Kristen, you know your scene? Okay, you're gonna be executing this guy down here. Just use the other box as your reference.
Oh wait,
And then,
this was a joke. All right, hold on. We'll go to the. Here we go. It's like what?
Yep, McGee is the director.
Oh, this was a McGee movie. Is that right? Oh, okay.
Kick your fucking ass! I want you off the fucking set, you prick! No, don't just be sorry. Think for 1 fucking second. The fuck are you doing? Are you professional or not? Do I fucking walk around and rip that? No, shut the fuck up, Bruce. Do I want? No! Don't shut me up. Am I gonna walk around and rip your fucking lights down in the middle of a scene? Then why the fuck are you walking right through? Da-da-da-da, like this in the background. What the fuck is it with you? What don't you fucking understand? You got any fucking idea about, hey, it's fucking distracting having somebody walking up behind Bryce in the middle of the fucking scene? Give me a fucking answer. What don't you get about it?
I was looking at the light.
Oh, good for you. And how was it? I hope it was fucking good because it's useless now, isn't it?
It's just...
it's funny.
Fuck's sake, man, you're amateur.
Funny. And he goes on. He just goes on for a while. So
He's a passionate dude. And look, a lot of them, until Hollywood decides that they're no longer useful, that behavior is accepted by the industry. They're given a pass most of the time. It's just the way it is. I give McGee a pass because he produced Chuck, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. So he gets a pass from me.
well, McGee, that's an Amber Heard movie. That's all I know about him is that Kevin Costner Amber Heard movie. It wasn't one of McGee's betters, I'm sure, but 3 Days to Kill. You know the story. Did you ever hear the story about Kevin Costner and Amber Heard?
No.
So they did this movie, and this was when she was dating Johnny Depp or married to him. I can't remember. Someone in the chat will know. But she did this movie with Costner, and so it was reported by the tabloids. And this seems actually to me credible because it's a really weird thing to make up otherwise, kind of random. But it was reported in some tabloids that at a wrap party for this, a cast and crew party for this movie, that Amber Heard was basically bragging about her great relationship with her love, Johnny, and Kevin Costner rather loudly said, well, yeah, except for that one day when you were on a break and you showed up naked in my trailer. So
at least he didn't do anything because he's going through a divorce right now, and he's spanking his wife in court.
He doesn't need any Amber Heard. That's
no,
right.
No, he's did you see that, like, his wife tried to get like $163,000 a month in child support, And then
I had to tap out of all that. I can't keep up with it. I just see that it keeps being reported. It's every day there's a new update on the Costner divorce.
I laugh because he's winning. He's just winning, and it's really fun. I know it sounds awful, but it's she wanted $163,000 in child support, and the judge caught it. It was like 160 something. Judge cut it to like $63,000 a month in child support. She's like, I guess I have to enter the workforce. It is hard to make $63,000 a month when your husband is Kevin Costner, and she's like the rental property. She's like $40,000 a month or something like that. It's giving OJ. It's giving OJ heavy OJ vibes.
Yeah, well, I always find the alimony / child support debate interesting, particularly when we get into these much higher salaries, higher net worths, because like, who does anyone need to be living at this standard of living? Like, in a way, there's a part of me when these guys get divorced, and most of the time it is still men. I understand it can be reversed, like Britney Spears, but when these stars or these high net worth individuals, when they get divorced and the other person is wanting, 500 grand a month or whatever, like, and that it doesn't have to cost that much to bring up a kid or to live a comfortable life. And so you're thinking, I think to myself, to what degree in these divorce situations is the woman, if it's the woman, or in K-Fed's case, the man, are they really like, to what degree are they really owed? They're not doing they're not doing the job anymore. So it's like you're still going to bring in that really heavy heavy check for a job you're not doing.
The law doesn't say, like, if I remember correctly, it's not about like, it's like the manner in which they were accustomed to living, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
So for Kevin Costner's wife, the argument she made is she says, my kids have luxury in their DNA.
She didn't say that.
She said, you can look it up. It was like something like luxury or like,
wow.
Like it's in their DNA
that's very literary. I like that.
Yeah. So it's like,
Poetic.
if you're used to living in a huge mansion and your kids are used to having the finest things, I guess what they're saying is like, look, the kids are going to keep needing that, as if the dad isn't still going to give the kids everything they want. Like, just because they're divorced doesn't mean your teenage kids aren't going to be getting what they want from their dad. But it is like, is it Adele? There's this amazing photo, I think, of like Adele or somebody, of like one of these like women who made all the money and then like had to get divorced, where she's like leaving the lawyer's office just looking really sad. She's like about to lose like all of this money.
Shitload of money. Well,
dude.
And again, this is as someone who's never been legally formally married, doesn't have kids, and so I'm kind of on the outside looking in with some of this. But I even look at somebody like Bezos, and I think, to me, the community property argument only goes so far. Like, you mean to tell me that McKinsey, maybe this isn't very like wrong and sexist to me to say this or to feel this way, but you mean to tell me that McKinsey Bezos is responsible for 50% of what Amazon turned out to be? Really? Like, if we hadn't had McKinsey, there's just no way Jeff could have pulled it off. I just don't know about that.
Is that what the argument is supposed to be, right? It's like, if I hadn't been there to give him an attaboy, if I hadn't given him that slug on the shoulder and that attaboy every night before bed, you wouldn't be able to get your shoes delivered in 2 days.
Exactly. That's exactly. You've summed it up exactly.
Yeah. Like there's also a great meme that I always reference when Bill Gates got divorced. And it's this photo of like a guy, he's got his laptop hooked up to a dual monitor, and only one of the monitors lighting it up, and it says like, she already took half.
And again, like it is often the man who has built the business, but not always. And so you think about Britney Spears, Kevin Federline just moved to Hawaii because, as I understand it, because they have this law where you have to support, if your kid is going to be going to college, you have to support that kid into their 20s, into their early
26 or
20s
something
or
like
mid
that.
20s, early to
Yeah.
mid 20s. And so K-Fed, he's got some shrewd lawyers because he just picked up his ass and his kids and they went to Hawaii so they can continue that Britney gravy train. I just don't know how I feel about that.
Didn't even like try to do it earlier so it wasn't so obvious. Like
I
waited
know.
till the last minute and then they're like, oh, I just happen to have a hankering to live in Oahu.
Hawaii, yeah,
Like,
absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
crazy, right? Like,
No, it is. I mean, it is so shameless. And then again, though, I mean, I'm sure I don't like to think that I would, but if I were in the same situation, I probably would do the same thing because I'm like, well, what else is she going to do? She's going to spend it on Sam Asghari, or no, they're split now. But
they're split up now. She's like overseas partying, and she's been an interesting case because I still stand firm. I said she's erratic. She's kind of out of control, but let freedom ring, my
that
friend.
conservatorship, I agree, was not
being a little nutty does not mean that the government or your creepy parents should have say over what's going on in their life. There's a better case to be made that her parents just destroyed her mentally at a young age, and that's the real concern, not how she's going to spend her time now.
Right. Now, somebody in the chat, and I get this argument, going back to Jeff Bezos and the community property thing, said it wasn't like she, the wife, Mackenzie, was laid back and eating bonbons while Jeff was building a marketing empire. She was in there putting in and helping. Okay, but was she really contributing anything more than any other wife in that situation? Is it really worth 50% though of the company? Like, is it like, look, I've had people tell me before things like, well, think about all the domestic work they put in, all the childcare. Well, you realize that if you were to hire a maid, and I know they're not going to be as great as your wife, but hire a maid, hire a nanny, this and that, you're still not going to get up to like billions of dollars. So I don't know.
Well, look, it's a hard question to ask, right? And I would rather they find like their own route to it, right? Find a fair amount that they come to, and he doesn't seem to mind. He's moved on to that.
Oh yeah, he's happy.
He's moved on to his fitness model fiance. That's probably going to take half as well down the line, and he'll have to live on a yacht rather than a super yacht someday. And man. He looks very happy.
He is very happy with his lady, and I'm glad you brought it up because I want to say something about them. Now, when he and his wife split, when he and his wife split, there were a lot of people who said, look at her, with the fake lips. She looks like she's on the cast of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and everything. And look, I understand, I get it. But at the same time, every picture that I see, he looks happy as hell to be with her. He's out and about. He's buff. They're going to parties. Talk about, enjoying your party life. You can also enjoy it later in life when the kids are grown too. People keep that in mind.
Look, he saw this lady and he's just like, worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it. It's fine. It's cool. Let dude's got the money. Dude's got the time and the resources. Let him have his fun. If he wants to lose another half later, I say go with God, my friend. You're allowed to do that. You built the empire. You can spend your money how you wish.
Well, and you know what I think he likes about this woman, aside from perhaps the obvious things that we could infer, is that she apparently has quite the zest for life. When he met her, she had just started her own helicopter company and black ops helicopters anyway. And what when those texts between them, the sex or whatever, the sexting, when that leaked, this was between him and her, right? When that leaked, one of the things that really impressed me was actually how sweet and sentimental they were. It was because he was saying things to her like, you're so alive. He called her a live girl, which is a little bit odd, but also like, I was like, this guy, this isn't just a piece of ass for him or whatever. Like, he really appreciates this woman. So
look, I think that she was very good at wooing him. And when it's fresh in your mind, and you're a little punch drunk, I'm sure that it's worth it. What does the chat says? It's her late night thoughts are worth billions.
Yeah, they were still talking about Mackenzie, the ex-wife. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
her late night. Yeah, I don't think they're talking about the new wife.
Okay.
Maybe hers too. No, they were just saying that her late night, pillow talk with him might have been worth Mackenzie. Mackenzie got married and then she split. She married
Again.
her. She married so Mackenzie, the ex-wife. She married her kid's science teacher, which I have no problem with that. But it only lasted a year, and so I
That
wonder
guy
if
probably
was
got a bunch of money
basically
too.
basically a rebound. Would he though, just from a year, you think? Here's the guy. So that's the ex. There's Mackenzie and her ex. I don't know.
She's got the face of a woman who just gave a bunch of money to leftist charities.
She does. I know. And I'm not very overtly political on my show, but when I look, I just have to say though, when I look at the list of charities that this woman gave money to and how much money she gave to them, it did kind of make me a little sick just to think about throwing all of that money at that stuff. But
they love they love it. I mean, the tax write off alone and the in the good press is worth it for them.
It's true. It's true. So anyway, what I like to do on my show, I do like to take a 5-minute break. So we're what we're going for here is let's like 2 hours. So right now we're at the 1:15 mark, and so I'm just going to give us a few minutes, and then we'll be back and we'll pick it up with some new topics.
Okay.
All right. See y'all in a bit. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna bring Brett back right now. All right, we are back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Also, I need to implement 5-minute breaks on my show. Holy crap.
You know,
Let's go.
You know, I'm sure that Tim Pool would find that unprofessional, but you know what that comes from? That comes from my years as a college professor because I feel like students needed breaks. I needed
Yeah.
breaks, and so I would always put one 5-minute break in if it were like an hour and a half class. And then I taught some classes that were longer than that, like a 3-hour course. And so we would take a good 10 to 15 minutes in the middle. And I'm like, screw it if it's lazy. I don't care. People need a break.
Oh yeah, like today's episode went almost 3 hours, and
Y'all
I'll tell
do
you
long
what.
shows. You do.
Oh yeah, well they're 2 hours is about where we sit most days. We read all the super chats, so depending on how much people engage that day, like it sometimes it goes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit earlier. But today, because we had Shane Davis on, and Shane Davis has a very loyal following of people in Comicsgate, they were just super chatting messages to Shane, and eventually he had to go to the bathroom. He had to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, bro, you can't break me. I can go. I got it. I got this.
You can last. So I wanted to talk. We'll talk about the Danny Masterson thing in a minute, but I wanted to talk about something that you may not be familiar with, and I'm not trying to spring it on you, but there was something that you said earlier that really it really triggered me. Not triggered in a bad way,
Triggered.
but but it triggered this thought. So you were talking about how you really don't have patience for people who try to sell themselves as this as this really beneficent. I'm a very good. I'm very good liberal. I care about humanity. I care about the environment. All that. Meanwhile, underneath the table or in real life, like Leonardo DiCaprio, they're flying their jets all around and everything. So there is a new Me Too story this week. I feel like every week, of course, that's a big focus of my channel, but I feel like every week there's a new Me Too type allegation of sexual assault, sexual harassment, or whatever. Well, I was not familiar with this band. You can tell me if you have heard of them. Are you familiar with Anti-Flag? Anti-Flag?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw people talking about it earlier.
Okay, so I did not look. I'm not going to pretend to be with it when it comes to music. I love classic rock, I love '90s rock, and I love gangster rap. And
gangster rap, let's go. My dad listened to a lot of look, there was a lot of Led Zeppelin, there was a lot of Bob Seger, there was a lot of
yes.
But gangster rap, let's do this. Let's go.
So, well, I was going to say, but this is something I'm not familiar with, punk. And so Anti-Flag, I wanted to talk a little bit actually about this because Rolling Stone magazine basically dropped a bomb on them this week. And so a couple of days ago, this article, I'm going to put it up here just a second. I'm getting all these weird pop-ups on the Rolling Stone page.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They have to make their money somehow.
Here we go. Okay. So, a couple of days ago, this article came out about their frontman. And again, I'm not familiar with any of these people, but his stage name is Justin Sane. And apparently that's an interesting stage name.
His real name.
Yeah. And apparently his real name is, his last name is Geever. But anyway, we'll go by Justin. And so a couple of days ago, Rolling Stone came out with this massive piece, this takedown piece of Justin Sane, and Justice for Marilyn Manson, one of the Instagram pages that tracks the Marilyn Manson stuff, brought this to my attention. And look, I'm just going to say I'm always hyper skeptical of Rolling Stone magazine and of their hit pieces, and they've done terrible articles on all kinds of Me Too type topics and so on and so forth. And this guy, he could be innocent. But what I don't want to adjudicate that right here because we can't. But what I think is really interesting is this group and this guy in particular, they prided themselves on being hyper feminist and very pro believe all women. And in fact, one of their most famous songs is something about feminism. Those of you in the chat who might know it, something like F is for feminism or something like. I'm going to look up the feminist song.
Well, there's an ironclad rule in the world.
Oh,
And
I'm
that is
sorry. I have to say, I'm sorry, because it is so cheesy. Okay, this is the title of their
okay.
their feminist song, very popular song apparently among their fans. This is the title: "Feminism is for everybody." That's the title of their big
Okay.
song.
Well, there's an ironclad rule in the world. No land wars in Asia, right? That's a thing. Also, you never, ever, ever trust a male feminist. Ever, 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 ever. It's a virtue signal. It's a virtue signal that's done to cover up the guilt a lot of times that you feel for the way you act. You don't trust a male feminist. You don't. I'm sorry. I don't know if this guy's guilty or not. I don't know enough about it. If he's innocent, that sucks. But you court the audience you get, and in this case, who knows?
Well, and I agree, and when we say you don't trust a male feminist, we're not saying that you don't trust a guy who treats women well and who treats them as
No.
equals. I mean, my guy downstairs who's actually making breakfast for us, he's he supports me in everything I do. He's not doing a Joe Jonas on me. He's not forcing me to have kids or anything.
Yeah.
but no, but like what we're saying though is these guys who sell themselves, promote
Yes.
themselves as feminists, as feminists, with the big F, like it's often masking something. And the thing is that these guys need to understand is if you're going to take on the mantle of that, then your behavior is going to be that much more hyper scrutinized. And so from what I can see, I read this article, and even with the skepticism that I have toward Rolling Stone and toward Me Too allegations these days, it seems to me what was basically going on here is that this guy was doing the rock star thing of trying to have sex with as many women, and some of them a little too young, as he could, but also that he was into rough sex. And basically what kind of seems like what happened is these women aren't in general are not accusing him of out and out assault, but basically what seems to have happened is that these women expected that because this guy promoted himself as a feminist, that when they got into a romantic situation with him or into these kind of like fan type relationships, that he was going to comport himself as a very sensitive man. And apparently that just did not extend to the bedroom. And so what these women would say is that what they were complaining about is that, among other things, he would go from being Mr. Feminist and Mr. Sensitivity to then as soon as they would get into the sexual stuff, he turned into this like crazy dom and was like spitting on them and like really getting into the rough stuff and not really with consent. And so I just thought that was very interesting.
Oh, okay. Not with consent. So they in the moment they actually had to pull away and didn't want to be involved in it, and they're saying that it's just that it didn't go any further. They pulled away from the situation.
Oh, well, some of them are saying that he actually had sex with them, but the thing is it's these tend to be presented in this murky ways. They say, well, I didn't say no. I didn't
know how to say no. Like Aziz Ansari. Like what happened with Aziz Ansari.
Well,
bad date territory, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if what they were expecting was like that he was gonna pull out a Gloria Steinem book.
I mean, I think so. Well, I wanted to listen. So I've never heard this song before. I wanted, because they kept talking, the women, when they were interviewed in this, they kept talking about this song, Feminism is for Everybody. So I've never listened to it. I wanted to play it and let's see how it is. But anyway, I who knows, this guy, they sure make him sound like an asshole and like an abuser. But then again, we've seen that before. But I am like you. I am suspicious of someone who promotes themselves as being this feminist hero. So anyway, I want to listen to this song for just a second and see if it's actually any good or if it's as cringe as it sounds.
Man, still ain't gonna find lesbians! There is no truth to your fucking ignorance! So fucking back where other people slamming it! Won't put the big cross in the back together rotten! This is what a feminist looks like! This is what a feminist sounds like!
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to be jamming to it at my future wedding, but
no. Yeah, The hardest part of cases like this is like, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? I can guess that the truth probably falls somewhere closer to the middle on a lot of these things. Again, not having known anything about the specifics or something like that, but it is very, very common for somebody to who puts themselves out there like that, when they mention their virtue, when they have to signal it that often, it masks something deeper, and which is weird to me, because they always say not, this isn't political, but Antifa says liberals get the bullet too, right? They're gonna come for you either way. Like, you will not, like, it will go wrong. Eventually somebody will say the wrong thing. You will tweet one thing. You will like the wrong tweet by somebody, no matter how innocuous it is, and you will find yourself in the crosshairs of these people, and they will dig up every dirty deed you've ever done. And if the dirty deeds you're hiding are actually monstrous behavior, then you're going to be found out. But but also maybe it's one of these things where he's deluded himself into believing he actually is that, right? That the situation is one of these things where, like, look, just because he calls himself a male feminist doesn't make liking rough sex illegal. But a matter of whether they consented to that behavior is a huge issue. And again, you've put yourself in a position now where you're going to be scrutinized just as heavily, if not more heavily, than the people that you are railing against. Like, I am sure if you go back through that dude's tweets, there's something about Donald Trump and grabbing women by the pussy. I can almost guarantee it.
I am sure. Yeah, I'm sure. No, it's true. And it's interesting you bring up this idea about be careful because be careful whom you're judging, because one day you'll cross the line too. And I had this argument with my significant other earlier about this big controversy about the Spanish World Cup kids. And I'd like to hear in a moment if you have an opinion on that. I don't want to put you on the spot or whatever, because this is one of the more controversial things that I've been talking about. A lot of people don't agree with me, but I will say this, that I was having this conversation earlier with my significant other, and he is very much of the opinion that this guy, that this was an intentional thing. He knew he shouldn't have been kissing women in an unsolicited way, and that maybe he doesn't deserve jail. He doesn't deserve a criminal record.
That's on the table, right?
It is on the table. It is. No, it is. The Spanish prosecutors now are charging him, and he probably won't serve a prison sentence, but he could. But I was talking to my significant other about this, and he said, no, I don't think he deserves that. But he did something that he knows was bad, and it's not acceptable. And you should not, he's speaking to me, he said, you should not be as okay with this as you are. And what I said to him was, it's not that I am just totally okay with it. I don't even like people kissing me on the cheek, as I've said before. But I do recognize that there should be some allowances for being human and making mistakes. And when I look at that footage, I see a guy really who I don't think is trying to cop some kind of a gross feel or a kiss on the lips, but he's like just ecstatic and overjoyed. But it's interesting what you said there about being mindful of the fact that at some point everyone is going to cross the line, and maybe you're not going to kiss someone on the lips in an unsolicited way, but you and the rest of us and a lot of men need to understand that at some point all men are going to cross the line in some way that could be misconstrued as harassment.
When I was saying cross line, I wasn't even saying physically. I'm saying, like, you're going to say the wrong thing, and and it's going to be used against you. So even the things that you believe were consensual will be, that seems to be what's happening here, right? Like, he's hearing these things, like these people are saying something. He's like, I didn't know that they didn't want this. Like Aziz Ansari, he's like, I thought it was 100% consensual, and I had no idea that they felt this way. This is the murkiest areas of our society right now that have been pulled into something where, at the end of the day, intimacy is an extremely difficult thing to nail down, right? It's extremely personal. It's extremely hard to navigate. Have you seen the things where, like somebody developed an app for people to consent before doing things
before each
there's-
stage.
and there have been some amazing skits done to make light of these situations. Not that I'm saying that something happening to someone is making light of it, but there's this one where this guy has a girl and she's got her hands tied and they're about to kiss. And he just puts a contract right in front between their faces, and he goes, "I need you to consent here that you are willingly tied up and that you consent to all activities." And so she's got to take the pen with her hands like this and initial in places. He goes, and then you need to sign here. And then he pulls out his phone and says, "Now I need you to say into the camera, I do consent to this behavior." And then the camera pans out and he hands it to his lawyer, who has to be a third party viewer of this. It's because in a lot of ways we have a culture now that's very scared of being misconstrued the wrong way. And you've got people, think of intimacy coordinators in Hollywood now,
right,
which are just glorified human resources to make sure that these studios don't get sued, because they need to make sure that everybody participates, doesn't say later, "Well, I felt uncomfortable. But I was so uncomfortable, I couldn't say anything about it."
Right. Paralyzed. Yeah.
The men are going to have to be extremely careful and exercise their best judgment. And the women will have to understand that part of agency means speaking up when you feel that you've been wronged, and doing so in a way that's healthy. And it's taking the most personal moments that we have with someone, and we've turned it into fodder for our discussions in these forums like that. It's fascinating, but it's terrifying for the women. It's terrifying because they're not sure, how they're going to be able to behave with men. Men aren't sure how they're going to be able to behave with women, and women are terrified that men are going to take liberties with them. Really is a situation where at this point in time, where we are in the West, culturally, our relationships between the sexes, everybody loses. It feels like everybody loses.
We definitely have not hit on the right formula, it seems like. And I say this as someone who, I know that you and Mary tend to have pretty conservative opinions about.
Mary has very conservative. My opinion is, I don't know. That's my opinion on everything. I don't know. Maybe I'm like people call Tim the fence sitter. I am the fence sitter. I'm the one who's like, yeah, maybe, sure, yeah, could be guilty, could be innocent. What do I know?
Oh, well, yeah, no, absolutely. I respect that. But I was, in terms of views about sexuality and relations between the genders and stuff, I've never found a comfortable place in terms of my ideology, because I don't agree fully with the traditional view of sexuality. I don't like the idea that a woman would be literally expected to be a virgin before marriage, or that it would be considered wrong for women to have some sexual experience. And I myself certainly am not a virgin. And I hope that my significant other doesn't see this. He doesn't watch my shows. But I have to say that if I were to tell everyone the number of sexual partners that I've had in my life, some people are going to be like, that's too many. And so, like, I don't want to bring back some kind of hyper judgmental traditional box for women, a confining set of expectations. But at the same time, and I think this is kind of where you were going with what you were saying too, is that the sexual revolution, it has also left much to be desired, in that now men and women, and then now we have this whole wave with Me Too, and this sort of hyper infantilization of women when it comes to sexuality. And I feel like what's happened, and I said this to Mary when I was on your show, I feel like what's happened is that we had the sexual revolution, and so it's supposed to be, free love and whatever you want to do, basically, as long as it's consensual. But that left a lot of not only gray area, but it left a lot of room for women, I think, to be emotionally hurt by no strings attached sex. Because I don't like generalizations either, but I do think we have to admit that by and large, women are much less comfortable with no strings attached sex, and women are generally more commitment oriented, or want something more than just a one night stand. I'm not saying all women or whatever, or prescribing anything, but, and so what I think has happened here in a lot of these situations, and I see it with the anti-flag story in Rolling Stone, is that women women have these sexual experiences, and they're hoping that those sexual experiences are the first step or the second step maybe in a longer relationship. They don't want to just be used for sex, quote unquote, even if they're enjoying the sex. They want more. And what's happening is that these guys, whether they're rock stars or they're normal guys, they're having sex with these women, and then they're moving on, or they're treating them in a way that is not serious and is not careful. And women are looking for some kind of a way to express the sense of violation that they feel when they are used in that way, or when they feel that they make that sex, they step out, and have sex, and then it doesn't go the way that they want. And so I think that's what some of this is with the consent issue. Like these women with the anti-flag story, some of them are saying, well, yeah, I didn't say no, and yeah, I did go along with it, but then it very quickly got beyond what I wanted. It got out of hand. And this idea also of sexuality is this, previous generations understood that sexuality is a wild force, and that it does have to be reined in at times. And I think the sexual revolution did away with that. And now what's happening with Me Too is that a number of women are kind of wanting to reclaim some sense of expectations for men, but they don't realize that it's not the way they're going about it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a lot there, but
I think a lot of it is also like outside of the committing of a crime, meaning that you were forcibly held against your will. He did things to you that you directly told him not to do, and he's committing a physical crime against you. We live in an age now where I'm of the firm opinion with everyone that strong ownership of your actions matters. Acceptance that the idea that you are an adult with your own agency means that you will have to account for behavior that you have gotten yourself involved in. That is not an endorsement of anybody doing something illegal or harming you.
Right.
But this is the course we're on in a society where emotions are now volatile. We can twist, and I do also believe in a lot of ways that we've become very capable of like, look, I feel slighted, therefore something wrong was done to me, and it's a very short walk to a crime was committed, therefore I'm filing this claim.
Exactly.
And that is not a discount of anything illegal that's ever been done in one of these cases. That's awful, but it is like, look, we're paying the price for choosing a world in which our gender roles have afforded both genders more freedom to pursue what they want in life. But with that freedom comes the responsibility for how that freedom can go right and wrong.
Right. That's very true. I agree with that. And I think something that people that recent generations have lost sight of as well is that you cannot have 100% freedom and 100% safety, because those actually are at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Antithetical.
They are antithetical. And so if we want to have a culture where women, can go to a frat party and get completely trashed and have sex with a guy that night, or multiple guys, or whatever they want to do, right, but feel like this complete freedom, then I'm not saying that means that, okay, well, we have to understand women are going to be assaulted and just, okay, no, but at the same time, you do have to understand that in pursuing that kind of a lifestyle, you are inevitably going to be exposing yourself to more dangerous situations.
It's also a product of the fact that we have worked, it seems like as a society, we want, not we, but society seems to be very keen on the idea that women, that being equal with men means that they're going to have the same desires as men and want to behave the same as men. And we're wired differently. We're wired very, very, very differently. And that's the sad reality of things, is that we've given women, and I always laugh because I was like, if you look at TV shows in the early 2000s to like the early 2010s, there was a lot of agency and freedom in how women's sexuality was shown on screen, but they were shown as adults who made these decisions willingly, who chose these actions and suffered the consequences, meaning maybe they fall in love with a guy who then isn't interested in them because of the way the relationship panned out. But nobody at that time was ever saying that made somebody assaulting you okay.
Right.
It's
Right.
not. It never
Right.
will be. But and I hate that that this is what we've come to as a society. But these are the quandaries. These are the qualms that we're going to have to deal with if we're going to live in a liberal society where people are free to act as they wish.
That's right, and I think that one thing that that you and I share, generationally speaking, is that when we were coming of age and our generation, we were losing our virginity. You know, that we did have the understanding that at times you're going to have, if you're out there, if you're having sex, you're going to have some bad sex, you're going to have some awkward sex, you're going to do things that then you regret, you're going to do things that maybe you regret while you're doing them, even in some weird way, right? I'm not talking about non-consent, saying no and he does it anyway, but just like you yourself in your own head, like. And I think the I think the thing is with sex is that unless you're in a stable relationship, there's always a kind of a risk to sex, in the sense that it can lead somewhere that you don't like, or someone can abandon you, or they can have sex with you and then treat you like shit or not call you. And we just kind of understood, our generation, we understood that every rose has its thorn, right?
We
There
love
are
songs.
thorns.
We wrote songs about our generation
Yeah.
wrote songs about it, right? Like our generation wrote songs about who's I had a girlfriend who really loved the song, what was it? White Houses by Vanessa Carlton or something like that, because it very accurately depicted a woman having her first experience and saying it was both wonderful, painful, but she wouldn't, even though they weren't together anymore. It's like that type of freedom came with you accepted that there was loss, there was
Right.
great gain, but there was also pain. And with all the pain comes great happiness as well. And life can't be boxed into these categories where everything's good all the time. It is also, and I do believe a lot of it, maybe not completely related to this, is we have a culture that's extremely obsessed with safety right now.
Oh, yes.
We have a society, a safety obsessed culture. Thanks, liberal white women. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. But like it's
Right.
in a lot of ways.
No, but it's true. Actually, that is where a lot of it, by the way, is coming from. And I'm not going to hijack this, but women are, generally speaking, they are more interested in safety than men are, and that accounts for their voting, right? That women tend to vote much more for the social safety net and for safe policies. Men, and these are generalizations.
Risk
I feel,
takers.
but yes, risk takers. Yes.
Yep, that's and as society works harder and works in overtime to pretend like there are no differences between us, but it's all a social construct, right? You are the way you are because society dictates that you're like that. Well, that might be true in some respects, but in a lot of ways, those things go back far, far before we lived in modern society. So it's strange to watch all of this stuff happen and see the fallout of all of it, but then have to kind of make the value judgment like, look, I don't like where we're at right now societally. We are in a culture war. We're going through, in a lot of ways, an upheaval because there's disparate factions that see this country or the world going in various different ways. But part of being fiercely believing in liberalism, in believing in the idea that you have a right to your own autonomy, you have a right to your own actions, you can go make your own money, you can associate with whoever you want, is understanding that it's going to be messy at times.
Right.
And you have to embrace that and accept that in a lot of ways it's painful, but that's beautiful as well.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's very true. Now, I wanted to, since we're talking about sexuality and consent, I finally wanted to talk, excuse me, about Danny Masterson. And I want to hear in a second what you think, but I think if I could venture this far, that you and I are probably on the same page on this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but where I'm at with this is that this is not one of those cases like that I have paid a lot of attention to, or that I follow. So unlike the Johnny Depp thing, unlike the Marilyn Manson thing, and other cases where I believe these men are innocent and falsely accused, I've not paid attention to this. And so let me just say, if I had been hearing that in this second trial, and the reason that this second trial, the jury didn't hang on a couple of the counts, is that there was evidence introduced into this trial, actual evidence, Scientology files.
Yeah.
When these women reported their assaults to the Church of Scientology, and also there were police reports. But when they reported this, the Church of Scientology, apparently Scientology tried to sort of clean up the mess for Masterson, and there was there was intensive sort of counseling meetings, and you have to, all of this stuff that you have to do in Scientology, where you basically, if you're an adherent, you have to open up your life to these people.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, I had been hearing that what made this case more than a he said, she said, is that there were actual files going back years, Scientology files, indicating that these women had complained about this, that Masterson had not really denied it, and that there had been some steps taken, some meetings. Now, here's the thing, here's where it gets kind of confusing for me. And I'd love to hear somebody in the chat address this. Last night, because I knew we were going to do this show, last night I did research and I tried to find articles that were specifically referencing this evidence. And all that I could find, I looked at a lot of different articles. All that I could find were articles that were referencing that the accusers claimed that this is how it had been dealt with in Scientology. So, here's what I'll say is, if it turns out that there was evidence, actual evidence, just beyond these accusers' accusations that was entered into the trial, then to me, that's a big deal, and that tends to indicate probably a greater likelihood of guilt on his part. However, if it turns out that there was no evidence actually from whether Scientology files or corroborating testimony, and really it's just these accusers, then I have a problem with it. I'm not saying I believe he's innocent, but I have a problem under those conditions, because I don't believe these days that we can automatically believe accusers. So I don't know. Was that kind of how you feel, or what are you at with it?
If I had to, if somebody comes up to me right now and says like guilty or innocent, and I had to put my money on it, I can 110% buy that he's guilty of it.
Yeah.
Sure. But 30 years is a long time to convict with no physical. Like I'm saying physical evidence. Like, do I believe he's guilty? Yeah, I believe he probably did do this stuff. But like I said, like we mentioned it earlier on the show, and they were talking about what is Blackstone's formulation, like what, better 10 guilty men go free than one innocent person spend a day in jail. And you can't know off, outright 110%. And we're getting closer and closer to that, right? Like where we could have gone one of two directions, right? You could have gone the direction where nobody's going to believe anything unless there's a spit, a DNA profile, and a high definition camera video of what you're looking at, right? It's why cops now can't take risks anymore. There is no cop's word being taken at. There shouldn't be, for a lot of people. They don't believe that a cop's word should be good enough, that you need that body cam. And why wouldn't you, just to be safe, right? To prove that you didn't do it. Or you go the complete opposite direction, where our society believes, they say, why would she lie? And yet, like, in a lot of ways, why would she lie? Like, I'm not saying that's true. They were saying the same thing. I saw Ed Krasenstein saying something about, why would this guy lie about having sex with Barack Obama? And then he goes, money. Now I'm not making this case. I'm not making this case for these women, because they were all Jane Does anyways. But I'm saying that lying is very much a reason.
But there are lawsuits. There are, as I understand it, there are financial lawsuits against Masterson, against the Church of Scientology, who has deep pockets. And then also there is such a thing as vindictiveness. If you date, I think that it is not uncommon when women who are not stars date stars, and they are hoping that they're going to be the lucky one with the golden ticket, so to speak, as someone put it once. And then it turns out, no, the guy just wanted to have sex. Or I know one of them was a girlfriend for several years. And so or something ends badly, you get dumped, and then you're vindictive. Now, I'm not saying that that's what I think happened here. And I have been inclined to think that Danny Masterson is guilty, primarily because I've
Yeah.
been hearing so much about the fact that there's this outside Scientology stuff. It just bothered me, though, when I
Yeah.
actually sat down to do the research last night and to say, okay, finally, I want to see what the jury saw in terms of these files and this testimony. And I couldn't find it. So that's kind of an open thing. If anybody wants to message me, or I'm going to keep looking into it just out of my own
Look,
curiosity. So
my instinct would say the dude is guilty. My
Yeah.
instinct would say the dude is guilty, and I am very glad that I'm not the one who was forced to be put on that. Like I was talking to someone earlier, and I said, like, can you imagine, like, because they were talking about how the first trial was ended up, was it he found not guilty, or
it was
like
a
a hung
hung.
jury?
Yeah.
Jury. Like you're that guy now who's like in the trial, and they're like, everyone's like convict. He's like, like.
Oh,
No
I would not.
physical,
I could not do it. Yeah. I mean,
like, it's a scary thing because you're going to be labeled. And like I said, I don't know if I believe that this guy's guilty or innocent, but if you're to say, like, it takes a lot now to be that person who says, look, on principle, without proof beyond a reasonable doubt, I believe this dude is, without proof beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't think we should convict. We are swayed by emotion these days. We very much
Right.
are. And it is for the men, for the ones who are reasonable and not necessarily male feminists who say believe all women, there is still this strong, both an urge to protect women. You want to, it's in your DNA to protect women, but also you are inherently aware of the evil that men are capable of.
Right.
You are.
Right.
You can't get around that. So, right. And then you add in the fact that Hollywood is a place full of scumbags, and I can't know, but I can make my best guess that the dude is probably guilty.
I wanted to read Ashton Kutcher's letter that has leaked. He wrote, both he and Mila Kunis wrote letters because they were on that 70s show with him for many years. Ashton Kutcher was on the ranch with him, evidently very close friends. And they both wrote letters to the judge on Masterson's behalf. And of course, I hope people understand that writing letters of support, that does not mean that they are asserting that he's innocent or anything like that. It just means that when the judge is going to engage in sentencing and hand down a sentence, then people are allowed to say positive things about this person, that the judge will have a more multifaceted view. But I thought that this letter was interesting. Well, they both were, but I wanted to read Kutcher's. One second. Oh, where is it? Okay, here we go. So, all right. I'm sorry. Where is it? Oh, there's a bunch of letters here I'm trying to find. Giovanni Ribisi, he's a Scientologist. He also wrote.
Is he?
One.
I didn't know that. I love him as an actor. That's I get a lot of crap on the show because I'm a big Tom Cruise stan. As an actor.
I'm huge. Huge. We'll talk about that in a second, because I actually wanted to bring up Tom Cruise. We're going to talk about Tom Cruise a little, and then there's one more thing I want to bring up, and then we'll call it a night. But okay, so there's all these letters. Where is it? There. All these Ribisis, actually, Giovanni Ribisi's sister, and wow. Okay, I'm trying to find it. They've got Bijou Phillips. Okay, here we go. Ashton Kutcher. So I want to read this. Again, I'm not reading this because I want, and I'll put it up here. I'm not reading this because I want to make Danny Masterson look good, but I just think it's an interesting perspective. So Ashton writes, "My name is Ashton Kutcher. I'm an actor, investor, philanthropist, and most importantly, a father. I met Danny Masterson when I was 20 years old in 1998. He instantly became a friend, dedicated coworker, and role model to me, and has remained as such for 25 years. As a friend, Danny has been nothing but a positive influence on me. He's an extraordinarily honest and intentional human being. Over 25 years of our relationship, I don't recall him ever lying to me. He's taught me about being direct and confronting issues in life. We've traveled the world together, etc." Okay. Yeah. Then in the next paragraph, it says, "As a role model, Danny has consistently been an excellent one. I attribute not falling into the typical Hollywood life of drugs directly to Danny anytime that we were to meet someone or interact with someone who was on drugs or did drugs, he made it clear that that wouldn't be a good person to be friends with.
Wait, what wasn't some of the claims that he drugged these women?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why I noticed that in Mila Kunis's letter and in Ashton Kutcher's letter, they both emphasize, and in Bijou's letter, that this man never did drugs. In fact, never even smoked a joint, apparently. And so I guess that's why they're really leaning into this. So Ashton says, for me, that was an implication that if I were to do drugs, he wouldn't want to be friends with me. I am grateful to him for that positive peer pressure. He also set an extraordinary standard around how you treat other people. And then he tells a story and says, and then he continues on. And then he says, while I'm aware, last paragraph, while I'm aware that the judgment has been cast as guilty on 2 counts of rape by force and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testament to his character is taken into consideration in sentencing. I do not believe he's an ongoing harm to society. And having his daughter raised without a present father would be injustice in and of itself. So here's the thing. And then Mila wrote this really nice letter about him too. I think that I think that it's very possible that this guy is guilty, and he's just he's one of these very complex people that has different sides.
a bad person can be very, very good at pretending to be a good person when he needs to be.
Yeah, that's true. And so it's not like any aspect of this would be at all surprising to me. I think that the only thing that gave me pause was, once again, that when I tried to find documentation of this evidence, all I could find reported on, and I understand some people saying, well, it might be sealed, but I'm just saying I couldn't even find it reported. I was looking through New York Times, all these articles, I couldn't even find it reported where this outside evidence was actually introduced in court. So I must just I must be missing it, and it's out there. And so I'm going to find it. And then in my next show, I'll talk about it. But that's the thing that gives me pause. And, you know, there's so much pressure, I feel like, Brett, on people like you and me to agree that Masterson is guilty, or in other cases to automatically agree that the accused are guilty, because we're skeptical about so many other cases. And particularly on my channel, because I spend a lot of time defending people who have been accused of Me Too infractions. There's a lot of pressure on me, people to say, okay, come up with somebody that you do think is guilty. Well, there's a lot of people that I think are guilty. I have my doubts. I talked about on your show. I have my issues or my doubts about Andrew Tate. I know a lot of people think that he was totally framed and that they got nothing on him, and that very well may be true. But also, it seems like there was a lot more going on there with that webcam business, and with the kind of pressure that was being, and control that was being exerted on those women. And when you have Andrew Tate on recording saying things like, we're going to slave these bitches all the way and stuff like that, I understand that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's like,
I would have liked Tucker to have pushed back on him a little bit more.
So what was that interview like? I did not watch it. Did you feel like he was not hard on it?
I can't. I feel like Tucker's having the time of his life, just doing all these interviews that he never would have gotten to do if he was when he was at Fox.
Yeah.
So, look, with all of these cases, it really is like I'm hesitant to ever have a strong opinion, as frustrating as that may be, on the he said, she said stuff where I can't know. I know that I lean into the idea that in Hollywood, there is a disproportionate number of bad people in the industry. There is. And for this case, I don't pass judgment either way, but I would assume that it's possible that he's guilty. And it's sad because I can't know, and we're never going to know. We likely won't know, but it's there's a lot less to like. The idea that the argument is that he was a good person around me. We were talking about something recently where the phrase is he was always nice to me. He was always nice to me, right? Yes. If you're not the person that's the object of the problem, he likely was nice to you. And then we get put in this camp now where you and I are expected to either believe like they're all innocent or they're all guilty. And I'm gonna be the frustrating one and say, Who knows?
Right.
I wonder.
Right.
I do wonder what his. He's got a brother, if I remember correctly, who also is an actor. And I'm not seeing anything. Like, did you see anything from him?
I have not seen that even mentioned. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's got a brother that is also an actor. So that's it's sad stuff.
It seems like the Church of Scientology did not end up doing him any favors. They may have in the short term, but actually, it seems like the thing that ended up doing him in is that the church it was the church's involvement in these records and these other people who were involved. So it's
Well, they do those things, right, where they're like confessional videos, and
Yes.
it's basically blackmail. Like,
Yes.
don't you feel better? Don't you feel free now that you've confessed to all the bad things you've done? Psych! If you say anything bad about the church, and what's her name? Leah Remini has been on a warpath against Scientology for years and years and years.
She is a one-woman machine of death for Scientology. That woman, she's definitely unleashed something there. So I wanted to ask you two more things. I want to talk about Tom Cruise briefly, and then I also want to talk about, we're going to end with Larry Sinclair.
Okay.
But Tom Cruise, I don't know if you saw this or not, but there were recent reports in the Daily Mail that let me bring his picture up just a second. Recent reports in the Daily Mail that Tom Cruise has soured on Scientology. Finally, I don't know if you saw this or not. But
I didn't see this.
Yeah, so check this out. So I'll find the article and send it to you. But there was a Daily Mail article like a week or so ago, and it was quoting sources who apparently who attend the Scientology Center in London, where Cruise has traditionally attended. And so in the past, anytime he was in Great Britain shooting a movie or for business or what have you, he was regularly attending the Scientology Center in London. Well, apparently sources have told the Daily Mail that Cruise has not been seen there in forever, even though he was filming the Mission Impossible, the latest movie, and he was in the UK a lot. That whole time, he never attended the Scientology Center there. And so could it be, do you think, that all of this bad PR and all of these revelations that the Church of Scientology has had to deal with recently, could it be that some of that actually seeped through Tom Cruise's head?
Like it's really like, imagine the dirt they must have on that guy.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I'm sure that you remember the story that came out in Vanity Fair several years ago, and it was talking about how David Miscavige, the leader of the Scientology church, loved to drink whiskey and Coke or whatever late at night and read the sex files of Tom Cruise.
I'm sure the stories are incredible. I have no doubt that the stories are incredible. And it's really funny because people accuse me of being like a Scientology apologist because I'm such a big fan of Tom Cruise because of his seemingly very, very strong dedication to making movies for fans, for audiences. And I love the idea that it's like he's coming out in every movie and he's like, I'm doing this for you guys. I'm doing this for you guys. I'm like, even if he's lying. I love it. I like in an industry full of scumbags who want to tell you that you're an awful person because you don't believe in exactly all the things they do. I'm willing to be lied to by a guy who's like, I just want to make good movies for you guys. But I am sure that the stuff that they have on him is spicy.
Well, I am with you in your Tom Cruise fandom because like you, I grew up on his movies, and he has a star power that most actors do not have, and he's very committed to his craft, and he's committed to the industry. And I have to say, my favorite Tom Cruise performance was Born on the 4th of July. Have you seen that movie?
I have not.
Oh, you should see it. You should see it. It's so good. But I wanted to show a scene from this because this was actually, as far as I understand, this is the only time that he was nominated for an Academy Award. Maybe he was nominated for Jerry Maguire too, but there's a scene, I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but there's just a brilliant scene where he plays in Born on the 4th of July. He plays a disabled vet who goes to Vietnam, and he's all gung-ho about the war, and then he gets, and it's a true story, and he gets paralyzed. He's shot and he's paralyzed. And so Tom Cruise, this scene when he was nominated for his Oscar for Born on the 4th of July, this is the scene that they showed. And so I would just want to watch a little bit of it, particularly since you're a Tom Cruise fan and you've never seen this, because it's very, to me, it's very heartrending. So this guy, he comes home in this scene, Tom Cruise, he plays this guy who's been disabled in the war. He is very cynical. He's very jaded at this point. It ends up having a redemptive arc, which is great, but very cynical, very jaded. And he's staying with his parents, comes home drunk, freaks out. So I want to watch the scene because I just think it is amazing.
I just saw Cocktail for the first time like last year.
Oh, well, I mean, that's such an iconic Tom Cruise performance.
I had never seen that one.
It's iconic. Okay, we'll look at this and then we'll
saw it coming.
Oops. Of course, in ads. I remember the good old days when YouTube did not have ads. That was like decades ago now.
The good old days.
Okay.
What's going on? Are you drunk again?
Hey, Mom.
He's drunk again. Eli, we have a drunk for a son. Leave that. You leave that alone. Give that to. You can't stay in this house.
Believe in, isn't it, Mom? This is what you believe in, but I don't.
You can't stay in this house.
I don't believe in him anymore.
Go to bed, honey.
Because
It's
he only had to
okay.
spend
I'll
3
take
days
care
up
of
there. Me, I got to spend the rest of my life. I wish I were dead like him.
You don't know what you're saying.
That's the problem, Mom. I'm not dead. I got to live. I got to live and I got to roll around. I got to remind him of Vietnam. And you don't want to know. You don't want to see us. You want to hide us. You want to hide us because it is a can of shit. And I am a fucking dummy.
He won't listen. He won't change.
Ronnie, please, you got to take your mom seriously. You can't drink in this house.
They told us.
Go fight! Go kill! Sergeant man, rain car! Yes, car left! Car left! Car left! And it's all a lie, though. Look up, Ronnie! Why?
Stop it! Go to bed. You're sleeping off. What did they do to you in that war? What happened to you? You need help, Ronnie. You need help.
You need help! With all your God and your bullshit dreams about me!
Wake up the whole neighborhood.
You are ashamed of me! You're embarrassed by me!
Let's give us a minute. Let me talk to him, all right?
You go to bed. Daddy's
Fuck
just-
you!
Don't
What
talk
did you
to
say
your
to
mother
me?
like that.
What did you say to me?
Fuck you!
You're gonna
Ronnie,
wake the
that's
whole
enough!
neighborhood.
Wake them up! Tell them! Cusack's, Carmelites, Welch's! You tell them all what they did to me. What they did to this whole block, this whole country.
They're gonna call the police
We
this
went
time.
to Vietnam to stop communism. We shot women and children.
You didn't shoot women and children. What do you say?
What said the war? Communism, the insidious evil. They told us to go.
Yes, that's what they told us.
Thou shalt not kill, Mom. Thou shalt not kill women and children. Thou shalt not kill, remember? Isn't that what you taught us? Isn't
Stop
that
it.
what they taught
Stop
us?
it! Stop it! I don't want you in this house. You're out of this house.
Ron, come on now. You made your point. Now stop. I haven't made my point. You tell her, Dad. They're killing everyone now.
I didn't force you to go.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And it's all falling apart. King Kennedy, Kent State.
Hey, man.
We all lost fucking war.
It's not my fault.
Fucking communism won. It's all for nothing.
It's not true, Ronnie.
How do you know? What do you know?
Ron.
You tell her, Dad. Tell her it's a lie. It's a fucking lie. There's no God. God is as dead as my legs. There's no.
All right. So if I play more, I'm going to get in trouble with the copyright people, but with YouTube. But I think that someone with that kind of intensity, like he's going to be kind of crazy. Like we do kind of have to put up with the crazy Tom Cruise for that kind of intensity.
Not just intense, but intense for an extended period of time. That carried for a period of time. Not to mention the having to do that while seated when you're not naturally like that would be extremely difficult. That was incredible.
It was an amazing role. It was an amazing role. Okay, so Marx said that history happens first as tragedy and second time as farce. So let's leave on a farcical note and talk about what is this Obama thing? Is Obama gay? Should we care? No.
Okay, no, I have look, we were talking about it earlier. Mary's like, I watched the whole interview. I will tell you this. I believe it, and I'll tell you exactly one reason why.
Okay, and so for
Because
people, by the way, for people who
yeah.
don't know, in 2008, when Barack Obama ran for president, there was this guy, I'll bring him up here, this guy named Larry Sinclair who did this video. And I remember at the time, I was a huge Obama fan. I was
Yeah.
one of these idealistic Obama fans who actually went around knocking on doors in 08. And so I was like hardcore pro Obama back then. But this guy, he did this video from like his basement or whatever. Like it had this really shabby shabby quality to it, but
Yeah.
whatever. He's not a wealthy guy.
It was 2008. Cameras weren't like, believe it or not, there was a time where you didn't just carry around
I
an
know.
HD camera in your pocket.
But he did this. I wanted to see if it was actually still up. But he did this video in which he claimed that he had sex with and smoked crack with Barack Obama, and this was something that basically was sort of semi-publicly adjudicated in 08, but not really, because the press the mainstream media kind of kept the lid on it. And also, I think there were a lot of people who were also of the opinion of like, well, what difference does it really make? But
I mean, it's like, I don't give a crap. It's like I'm one of those people, like, if we elect a president, give him the good drugs. Give them the good drugs, I say. I want them to get the NZT from Limitless, so that they're sharp
like
all the time.
Well, it's kind of like John F. Kennedy is considered one of our greatest presidents, and he was a hardcore drug addict. I mean, he had physical problems and stuff, but he was on all kinds of stuff. But most people don't even know, unless you know the history of like everything that he was on. And so, anyway, but he had medical problems. I cannot find Larry Sinclair's original video, but he just did an interview with Tucker Carlson. And so, why is this resurging right now? Do you know?
Look, I don't know why. If I was to guess as to why, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I would say that I don't think it's the thing to focus. Like, if the idea is that they're politically motivated, I don't think it's the thing to focus on. But I will tell you why I believe it. I will. So the story was, I can't comment on the sex part, but I can comment on the part where he talks about they got in the car or whatever, and he cut up lines of coke on a CD case, and only a true story would know, because you would never make that story up now and reference a CD case, because nobody has CD cases anymore in your car.
That's true, but that was 08 though, right? When he
No, 90. It's like the late 90s, I guess, that this happened. So it was like 99 or something like that.
No, but I'm saying like he originally came out with these allegations in 08.
Yeah.
So would the CD thing still be that outdated though?
I'm just saying that, like, I guess then he's held true to that story the whole time if he made it up. But like, look, as an addict in recovery, I can say that there are certain things that you're going to say that seem that seem to make a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, I have what does the chat say? It says I have zero evidence of it, nor do I really care. Do I just, like, if Barack Obama did a bunch of meth and did a bunch of cocaine, I just don't care. Doesn't bother me.
So I guess that the reason why this is coming back up is
thanks, Obama.
I guess the reason why this is coming back up is because there were some recently disclosed letters between Obama and an ex-lover of his, a woman that he dated when he was in his 20s, and he said in there that he has fantasies. He makes love with men in his mind, but only in his mind. And then he talked about the duality of gender and how he feels part male and part female, but he's chosen to be male or whatever.
Also, he'd be 2S now in the 2S LGBTQI spectrum. He'd be or no, that's you embrace feminine and masculine. Sorry, I got that wrong.
I just think nowadays let's just say pansexual, because that covers everything, right?
There you go.
That's what a lot of these Hollywood types seem to prefer now, is to say, oh, I'm pansexual. I think Miley Cyrus, right? She's pansexual.
And Wayne Brady came out as pansexual.
Oh,
recently,
really?
From Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. From Whose Line Is It Anyway came out as
funny.
pansexual. Look, it's just like, what, like the guy. I'm more inclined to criticize his crappy policies on health insurance than I am to care whether the dude smoked crack or did a bunch of cocaine.
Yeah, or gave somebody a blowjob in a limo.
I mean, you could criticize the fact that back then he lied about being supportive of gay marriage because he knew he needed to be anti-gay marriage to get elected in his first term, right? That they didn't come out. He didn't come out as pro-gay marriage until later. So you could criticize that, like, how dare you lie? Also, what you said earlier, where he's like, I have fantasies about. It reminds me of that clip that always replays from Law and Order SVU with Ice-T, where the guy goes, I have relationships with women and sex with men, and then Ice Cube goes, I got news for you, you're gay. That means you're gay. Like, it's like, maybe Obama could have broken down multiple doors and been the first gay president. Now, could he have been the first gay president who smokes crack? Probably not. But Marion Barry got reelected, didn't he, back in New York in the 90s or in the 80s or something?
He did, and they even had him on video, right? Smoking the crack, lighting up the pipe.
That was a Chris Rock skit where he goes, Marion Barry, smoked crack, got his job back. All I want to know is who was so bad that they ran against him that they lost. Were they on heroin?
Oh my God.
Don't vote for crack, vote for smack.
Well, I love it. These days, I think people would vote for anyone with any kind of addiction if they could actually clean up the cities. I would take a total meth head in charge of San Francisco if they could actually clean it up. So.
He's like, do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
Do as I say, not as I do. Just because I have to do this to get by doesn't mean you do. Be better than me.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, we are to the end now. It's been 2 hours, 20 minutes. That's a good run. But I wanted to ask before, several things. First of all, let me plug your channel again. So Pop Culture Crisis. Someone asked in the chat earlier, is there anybody else here from Pop Culture Crisis? But
I saw a couple people in the chat. I briefly checked my phone and saw some people in the chat that were that did show up. I did. We had such a chaotic episode today that I didn't get a chance to shout it out at the end. Like, I meant to mention it at the end of our show today.
Oh, no,
I didn't get a chance.
No worries. I wanted to check and see if anyone has sent me a message. I see
Olivia Claire. She is a PCC person. I see Andrina. She is a PCC person. Gunnar DeVito says PCC guy right here.
Oh,
Brett.
there we go.
We've got people in the chat. So hello, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, wow. I see 1,000 Foot Deep End. There you go. Well,
thank you so much for joining and for supporting this chat. I would ask all my viewers to check out Pop Culture Crisis. And you are so, like we said, you are so prolific. You're constantly putting stuff out. So, so check out. Let me get a link here too. That would be helpful here. 1 second. Oh, guys, by the way, this is Brett's Twitter, but I'll put Pop Culture up here too. Go ahead, Brett.
And we do put up, like, we're live Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we do put up segments every day that are cut up from those episodes if you don't have the 2 hours every day to watch the show. And then segments also go up over the weekend, so there will be stuff coming out all weekend this weekend. And check us out on Monday. We want new people to show up and come hang out with us.
Well, you've already been off to a great start, because I know, like I said, I know in the first couple of years with YouTube, the first few years, honestly, it is really a struggle to get that algorithm going. So the fact that you all already have close to almost 70,000 subscribers. Oh, they're at 69.9. So
yeah, we're going to hit 70 tonight, I think.
I was going to say, so we've got 100 people on the chat on the stream right now, but I know that I'm going to have several thousand who are going to end up watching this on my channel. So everybody, let's put them over the 70,000. All right. But yeah, so everybody, there's the link. Check them out.
Here's the thing, guys. If I am too wishy-washy for you, if I'm too much of a fence sitter, you will love my co-host.
Oh my Lord.
She is the opposite of a fence sitter. If you're looking for strong opinions from somebody who is not on the fence on stuff, Mary is the person for you.
Oh man, she is a spitfire, and
She
she
is.
probably gets tired of people making over her young age. But when I found out after I did that show with you all and sat there and talked to her and sparred with her for, 2.5 hours, and then I found out how young she is. I don't want to say, I don't know if it matters, but
She just turned 23.
Okay.
We did a birthday episode. She's like, I've hit the wall. I've
And I
hit the wall.
saw
She
that.
said.
You have
She
not
said that,
hit any
not me.
wall.
She said that, not me. But yeah, she's unbelievably intelligent. She's extremely gifted. She's one of the best speakers you're ever get. She's a way of really, really dissecting a story and giving you a very, very a very, very reasonable and well argued case, unbelievable accurately, and it's a joy to watch every day.
And she's really entertaining. It's funny because we agreed on a lot of things, but there were definitely ways in which she was a lot more conservative than I was. But it's funny, when I got off the stream, I was talking to my mom, and I said, "Well, how did you think it went?" She's like, "Oh, it was great. It was great." And she's like, "Wow, that girl's a lot more conservative than you."
Yeah. Yep.
But it's funny because at one point in our conversation, we were talking about something, and Mary had just said had something that I didn't really agree with, and I said, "Well, I don't agree with anything you just said, but but I see it has merit." No, she's great. So
she
anyway,
loves to argue. She's like, I'm the one who's always looking to, like, let's make this a fun conversation. She's willing to argue. She'll go head to head with someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it is a great show. Everybody check it out. And I'm going to be slicing up this conversation we're doing right now, and I'll be putting out different segments this week as well. But you feel free to, I'll send you the link, and you feel free to do the same if you want. But okay, so everybody, there's the link for his channel. And then I'm going to take us out by linking you to my PayPal. Always appreciate tips, donations, and
support.
And PayPal, I don't know if you know this or not, but it does take less of your money than YouTube. So I love the super chats and everything, but YouTube does take a lot more than PayPal. I know people don't like the PayPal misinformation policy, but actually I have to say, Candace Owens overreacted on that, because when you actually read the policy, and I'm not trying to carry water for PayPal, but when you actually read that misinformation policy, it's very clear that it applies to situations where people are selling physical items and someone has misrepresented the condition of their item. So don't worry, they're not yet to the point where they're going to be kicking us off for our views, but you never know, maybe right around the corner. Anyway.
Support the people, like for independent creators that are out there and making the content you love. It's important to support them, because for a lot of them, like I'm very blessed. I get to do it for a job, right? Like I'm going to be able to show up either way. But a lot of people, if they're doing this on their own, if they're making a go of it and they're really, really doing it without that safety net, it's important that we support them. We had Shane Davis on the show earlier, in the people in Comicsgate, whatever you think of that movement, they've built something where they're supporting each other and they're creating products. And it's through that mutual love of whatever it is that you're working on and the community that they build, that they're able to keep these things going. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely true. And I've had people, most of my fans, they are very cool with the requests for money and tips. And even if they can't afford to tip or to donate, like, they're very cool with it, and they understand why I ask for them. But I have had on occasion some people complain, and they say, I don't like it when you ask for money, or you should just be happy to have viewers. And what I say to them is, would you like for me to make fewer videos? Because really what's happening is, if I don't have enough money, then it's not just me that's getting punished and that things are more stressful in my life, but also it's like, okay, well, I'm going to make fewer videos because I'm having to, get another job, or I'm having to devote more attention to something else, or what have you. So anyway, in the end, it's always helpful to support the work that you love and the art that you love and the commentary that you love. So anyway, thank you so much, Brett, for being here. Everybody check out Pop Culture Crisis. I'm going to put the links below in the comments right after this. So I'll have his links, Pop Culture Crisis links, and then also my tip jar links. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for watching.
And thank you to my mods, and we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.